tweet on social media platform X, but they are still not talking about any number of people on board. What we have managed to ascertain so far, that this was going to the Gatwick airport in London. It took off at about 1:10 p.m. is what we are learning, Anvit. So all of these details are emerging. Is it too early to talk about what could have led to this crash?
See, right now also the priority of the first responders and the authorities are to make sure that how many passengers were on board, how many of them are safe, if any, how many have sustained grievous injuries, and if there are fatalities, then that needs to be taken care of. Only after that, and the site is clear, then there is a separate committee that is called the Air Investigations, Aircraft, Accident Investigation Bureau. That will look into the what could be the possible reason. There would be a committee, and this is how it happens that an aircraft is investigated. But that comes at a later stage, because right now the mishap that has taken place and the urgency of the matter is that to make sure those who are hurt need to be taken to the medical facilities on priority, so that the number of fatalities are less, and also the casualties that have happened, they need to be taken care of. Right now the focus is that for all the departments, be it the disaster management, from fire safety to firefighters to the police and the paramedics and ambulances, they have all been rushed to the spot. They are managing the situation right now, but the visuals are really scary. The kind of crash it was, it's a huge aircraft. It has a capacity of at least 250 people on board. We are fearing that there were at least 220 to 240 people on board. And
right, Anvit, and we are just putting out those fresh images that we have managed to in fact source. We also have Rajiv Pathak. Rajiv, these images where we see this Dreamliner crashing into a residential building. More details about this, please, Rajiv.
Yeah, what we can confirmly say right now is that it was an Air India flight going from Ahmedabad to London that has crashed immediately after taking off. The plane took off around 1:38 p.m. 1:38 p.m. At that time around it took off, and then it has crashed into a residential building. Building was not occupied right now. It was being constructed for the doctors of the civil hospital, but it was empty right now. People were not staying there, but it was a densely populated area, and that.
Yes, Rajiv, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
and yeah, so 242 people were on board right now. What we have got information from our sources in airport, 242 people, including crew members and passengers, were on board. High casualty is feared. So far, around 25 passengers have been shifted to civil hospital. Fire brigade and other agencies, they are trying to help as much people as they can to provide medical facilities there. In civil hospital is a nearby hospital, Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. It is Asia's biggest hospital. That is the nearby hospitals in Ahmedabad. So they are bringing whatever survivors they can find to the civil hospital for their treatment. So far, Air India has confirmed that it was AI 171 flight. And what we have learned from our sources in airport is that the flight was scheduled to take off at around 1:10 p.m. But it was a little late, and it took off around 1:38 p.m. And immediately after taking off, it crashed into the nearby building right outside the airport. And
right, Rajiv, can we look for one more confirmation from you, because we are learning of these details that are emerging, that 25 passengers so far have been shifted to the nearby hospital. Can we confirm that these were passengers on board that ill-fated aircraft, or they could be also civilians on ground?
See, right now they are in a very bad shape that have been shifted to the civil hospital, but we cannot say about their exact situation right now. But 25 people have been brought to civil hospital, and emergency operations is being carried out on them. Whether they are alive or not, we can not exactly confirm right now. And one more information is that former CM of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, he was also likely to be on this plane, because he was to fly to London from this plane only. His family is also trying to ascertain whether he was there on board or not, but his number is unreachable right now, and we fear that he was on board. So,
Okay, let me
that
again put this
information is
across
also very
for our
important.
viewers, and we will have that on the ticker as well. We are in fact learning that the former Gujarat's Chief Minister Vijay Rupani could have been on board the IC-171. I'm handing it over to my colleague Rahul Shivshankar to take this forward. This is a huge tragedy as we learn of coming out of Ahmedabad in Gujarat.
Well, very unfortunate news coming in from Ahmedabad, viewers. We believe that this will lead to very big casualties. That's what the input is from the ground. As you can see, these pictures tell their own story. Complete devastation out there. This particular aircraft took off and then apparently crashed into an under construction building in the vicinity of the Ahmedabad airport, and you can see the superstructure of that building also quite damaged. This is the moment, just moments after the crash. It's a video that is capturing, of course, the aftermath. This is a very, very, very big catastrophe that has taken place, and that's the picture of the moment of crash. For some reason, the plane lost power moments after takeoff, and within seconds, that's what we saw. Remember, a plane that has just taken off would be loaded with fuel. There would be a lot of fuel on it because it's a long haul flight. It would take about 12 hours to London, given the new flight path, etc. As a result of which you see that huge ball of fire erupting into the sky. Griha, these pictures obviously very disturbing. We don't have updates as of now on who might have been lucky enough to survive this. We also don't want to hazard, even though there is news coming in of certain people who might be on board. We don't want to really second guess the official sources, so we're going to hold back on that news. But Griha, these pictures, these are very, very devastating for any viewer to see.
Absolutely devastating, Rahul. You said it right there. We're talking about AI-171. This is Boeing 787. It has crashed as we see these visuals, rather distressing and disturbing visuals. Our colleague Anvish Srivastav is also with us to explain to us moments into takeoff is when this crash happened. To be precise, 8 minutes after the takeoff at about 1:38 p.m. today, this Air India flight outbound to London crashed. Anvit, we are just putting out these visuals of the crash.
Yeah, see, these are latest visuals that have come in, and it clearly shows the aircraft, in the moment that it met with the mishap, and we can see that it is flying over a residential area. A lot of residential buildings are underneath the flight path, and what we are also learning is that the Mayday call was given by the air traffic control, but the aircraft did not respond. The visuals clearly show us how the aircraft is lowering its flight path, and this is above a residential area, which is also why it is a grave concern. Not just the people who were on board, at least 242 people who were on board along with the crew, not just them, but also there could be fatalities from on ground. And soon as in this visual, soon as the aircraft goes down, it can be seen that it went up in flames. Which is also again indicative of the fact that there could be less chances of survival. But yes, agencies are on ground. They are confirming that if there is any person who has survived, they must be rushed immediately without any delay to medical facilities, and to ensure that those who can be who the lives that can be saved. That is the focus right now of the paramedics as well as the first responders who are on ground. But other than that, we are also getting information that the Civil Aviation Minister Rammohan Naidu, he is rushing to the site. Also, he is also leaving for Ahmedabad, and then we are also finding out that the police and other basic first responders, they have also been rushed, including disaster management, the police, the paramedics, ambulances, and other stakeholders as well. However, so far
there's an official statement that has come out, Griha. Let me just very quickly update you on that. This is what we're being told, and I'm quoting it exactly. Accident to MS Air India. B787 aircraft VTANB, which is the call sign on 12/6/2024 at Ahmedabad on 12th June 2025, MS Air India B787 aircraft VTANB, while operating flight A1171 from Ahmedabad to Gatwick Airport, has crashed immediately after takeoff from Ahmedabad. There were 242 persons on board the aircraft, consisting of 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew. The aircraft was under the command of Captain Sumit Sabharwal with First Officer Clive Kundar. Captain Sumit Sabharwal is a LTC with 8,200 hours of experience. The co-pilot had 1,100 hours of flying experience. As per ATC, aircraft departed from Ahmedabad at 13:39 IST from runway 23, gave a Mayday call to ATC. So there was a Mayday call, Griha, that was issued, but thereafter no response was given by the aircraft to the calls made by ATC. Aircraft immediately after departure from runway 23 fell on ground outside the airport perimeter. Heavy black smoke was seen coming from the accident site. So this is the latest that has come through. The registration of this aircraft, the call sign was VTANB AI171 operating from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. This crashed immediately after takeoff. What we now can confirm is that there were 242 passengers on board, including 2 pilots, 10 cabin crew and 230 passengers. The flight crew, the captain Sumit Sabharwal, who had 8,200 hours of flying experience, so very, very experienced flying officer. The first officer, Clive Kundar, had 1,100 hours of flying experience. It made a Mayday call, but after that no contact was establishable with this craft. And you see those pictures, devastating, heart-sinking moment there, live. Griya.
Absolutely, and the building as well, Rahul, I believe this is the building where the plane crashed into, the under construction building that was meant for doctors to reside at. This is where the plane crashed into, and our colleague from News 18 Gujarat, Rajiv Pathak, has constantly been mentioning on how densely populated this area is. And from these visuals where we see minutes into takeoff, the plane crashes and it is being caught on film, we do see where it has landed. This is flying right above the civilian areas where you can see houses, terraces of residential buildings, and then it eventually goes and hits another residential building, possibly under construction, and we're also putting out those details. Anvit, our colleague, was just mentioning about that Mayday call. Rahul, we also have an official word from the Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu. He in fact has put out this tweet that he's shocked and devastated to learn about the flight crash in Ahmedabad. He in fact has quickly rushed from Vijayawada, where he was at, to Ahmedabad to in fact be there in the face of this massive tragedy. We're also in fact learning that 3 National Disaster Response Force teams comprising of 90 personnel have moved from Gandhinagar to the crash site. A total of 3 more teams are being moved from Vadodara, we are told, and also there is that DGCA statement that Rahul was just mentioning about, where they have given all of those details. If we once again give our viewers a recap, this is today at 1:39 p.m. is when the crash took place. This is Air India B787 AI171 Air India Dreamliner. It was operating from Ahmedabad. It was going to Gatwick in London. This crash immediately happened after 8 minutes of takeoff. Very, very close to this residential society.
These pictures, Griha, once again, of course, very disturbing pictures. You can see that the landing gear had also not really retracted. So this was almost immediate after takeoff, and clearly the plane was laden with ATF, given the fact that it's a long-haul flight. So it turned immediately into an incendiary ball of fire, and what we're seeing really are pictures of that heart-sinking moment. Now, Mayday call went out. The pilots were experienced. Clearly they knew that something had gone wrong there. The problem was, of course, the reaction time. When you've just taken off, the flight is the most vulnerable at that moment. You can't really do much. Usually, as the flight takes off, it is only that point assuming power. Of course, we will have to speak to experts to figure out the aerodynamics there, but the fact of the matter is that at that time there's only very little you can hope to do. You can just hopefully, that you are landing on an open field where you could make some sort of a stable landing, but with that amount of fuel, you can't even jettison the fuel. You have very little reaction time, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Very, very little reaction time there on those pictures. Clearly, there was just time to issue a Mayday call, but no time really to avert the consequences. And those consequences, as you can see from the pictures on the right, as Griya has been describing them, are devastating. This is also a residential area, so we don't quite know what the scenario is on the ground. There were a number of people we showed were being wheeled into a hospital. We don't know if they're survivors from this crash, or if they were bystanders, or they were residents of the particular area or the locality where the crash took place. So a lot of unanswered questions right now, very initial days. We can only tell you that a statement has been issued where certain details have been shared with us, and it's quite clear now that the two pilots latched on to that distress that they were obviously facing as soon as the plane took off, issued a Mayday call, but there was very little reaction time for them to do anything consequential to avert a tragedy of this magnitude. Now, the last time we had a tragedy in India of this magnitude was on August 7, 2020, where an Air India Express flight 1344 crashed, and that was a devastating crash also. And that was a repatriation flight, actually, and it was an incident that happened at the time of COVID. I can quite clearly remember it. It was very difficult at that moment in time to even report on that story, because obviously the country was under various forms of lockdown. But today, circumstances very different. Air India is privatized. It is an airline that is now in private hands, not in government hands. The government, of course, relinquished charge of Air India a few years ago. It has been, of course, facing some difficulties in making that transition. There have been complaints, Griya, of faulty service, but no one could have imagined this. Could they have? The flight was a bit delayed. It took off about 20-25 minutes after the scheduled time of departure, STD. Griya.
Absolutely. Also, Rahul, we are learning that the Gujarat Chief Minister has in fact put out an official word on social media platform, and he in fact speaks about the plane breaking down. That is how he is putting it across, and he said that immediate rescue and release operations in this accident, as well as immediate treatment to the injured, point here to be underlined, have been in fact meted out. Officials have been instructed to make arrangements for this on a war footing. That's official statement by the Gujarat Chief Minister. One concerning piece of information that is also emerging, Rahul, is possible presence of the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, who could have been on board that London-bound flight. We still do not have confirmation, but we do know how family members of Mr. Rupani are trying to reach him, but his phone is of course not available. But there are in fact distress calls that were made, and there is a word on social media that is also coming out. Several people, including the Gujarat Chief Minister, we also have many such people, several important celebrities also now beginning to
more
tweet about
updates
it.
coming through. More updates coming through. The pilots had reported a Mayday because they had obviously encountered a devastating loss of lift, and that's really what perhaps has caused this. Why it happened, we don't know, viewers. We're updating you in real time. This crash took place just about 25 minutes ago. News is trickling in. It is trickling in slowly, and one cannot obviously jump ahead and draw conclusions, because fundamentally you have very little news coming in from the ground. Air India Ahmedabad London international flight crashed during takeoff in Ahmedabad just about half an hour, 40 minutes back. In fact, to be exact on time now, it's going on to be about an hour. Disturbing pictures are coming through, viewers, so discretion is advised. Very disturbing pictures, some of those. So we're obviously extremely concerned about the extent of the casualties. They are high. It is to be expected, because there was very little response time to take any action that could avert a disaster of this magnitude. As you saw in those pictures, and if you look in the right of your screens, viewers, that's really the moment of the crash. Within minutes, the flight takes off. Its landing gear has not even retracted. It's laden with ATF naturally because it was ready for a long haul flight to Gatwick Airport in England, and it crashes because there was a catastrophic loss of lift, which is very, very apparent, and this crashes into an area where there is an under construction building, but we're also told that it was a densely packed residential area, so there is a possibility of ground fatalities, of bystanders, collateral damage, so to speak. 250 on board, two pilots, as well as, of course, 10 cabin crew. We're also told that former Gujarat Chief Minister, Mr. Rupani, was also on this flight. We don't know the status of his condition right now. We will get updates and we will report to you. Anvit is here with us. Anvit, what can you tell us? Take us through some of these pictures.
Now, see the latest video that we are seeing, that in which this Dreamliner that was London bound could clearly be seen that how it was lowering its flight path, and it clearly can be seen in the visual that it is flying over a residential area, an area heavily inhabited outside of Ahmedabad airport. And there were, in fact, the visuals that have come in from ground also shows how locals have gathered around the crash site. A lot of people are there. The first responders have also reached. The police, the disaster management authorities, and the paramedics and ambulances are also at the spot. But a lot of locals are gathered, which is also indicative of the fact that the area was heavily inhabited, as the reporters from Gujarat have also reported. And there is also fear of loss of life from the ground as well, not just people who were on board the aircraft, but also because there were residential buildings around the place where this plane has crashed. So there's also fear that people who were on ground, they might have sustained injuries. There could be casualties, and there could also be fatalities, the kind of crash it is. As we see, soon as the aircraft lowers its flight path, it can be seen that it's going up heavy in flames. So that is also indicative of the fact that the magnitude of this crash was high, and that also lowers the chances of survival of the passengers who were on board, which also is a scary fact that is coming out from this news. But other than that, the details we have managed to gather so far is that it was around 13:39 IST, that is the 1:39 p.m. when this flight had taken off from the airport, and this was a Dreamliner. It was 787, which usually has a capacity of 240 to 250 passengers and crew on board. And what we're learning is that there were at least 242 passengers that were on board. The authorities from safety regulator in India have also confirmed this, and the airline, however, has not come out with the number of fatalities and number of casualties in this manner. But this is confirmed that it was a Dreamliner, a B787, and it was an AI-71 flight that was operating from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. Also, we are known that the fact that is known to us that there were at least 242 people on board, 10 cabin crew included, and 2 the pilots that were on board. Also, we are learning that there was a Mayday call that was made by the crew and by the pilots of to the ATC, to the Ahmedabad ATC. And when the ATC tried to get back in touch with the pilots, there was no response, because probably, like you earlier also mentioned, there was a very short response time, as we also can see in the visuals, that the plane was flying low at the time. It had only been 10 minutes that the flight had taken off. So the plane was still flying low, and we can only see its flight path going down over the residential area when it goes up in flames.
Anvit, can you hear me? All right, we seem to have lost that connection, but all right, Rahul, if you can see these visuals going on to also indicate the impact of this air crash, how disastrous, how catastrophic it's been, looking at the debris that's been scattered all over. What we are learning is right now that all emergency services have been activated. The fire services have also reached the ground level. But Rahul, as you've been indicating, this is a densely populated area where the crash has taken place, and perhaps there could be also a possibility of ground fatalities as well, something that Anvit was also highlighting
I'd like to bring you in on that aspect.
Yeah, we've also got updates coming in from the DG AAIB, Director Investigation, and the GO team are all leaving for Ahmedabad. We're also being told that the Director of Air India has responded and he has expressed his utter sadness at this particular tragedy. And this tragedy is of particularly large magnitude, viewers, because there was very little reaction time. The plane took off, and immediately after taking off, it most likely experienced a loss of lift. Why it did so, we don't know. But you can see the landing gear had still not been retracted, so the plane had just about crossed the perimeter wall of the airport when it found that it was losing power, and it crashed to the ground laden with fuel. There wasn't even time to jettison the fuel load, and it did issue a Mayday call. The pilots issued a Mayday call, but it did not obviously result in any bid to avert the crash, because no one had reaction time here. It was very limited reaction time, and what you're seeing is the aftermath of that crash. That plane goes down, and immediately as it goes down, there is a huge ball of fire that erupts, completely overshadowing the horizon, and you can see a number of those chawls, a number of very densely packed residential areas are right under the flight path of this plane. So we're expecting news of collateral damage on the ground. We also have no updates. We have no updates really, viewers, on the casualty figures, but we are being told that 250 passengers in total were on board, including 2 pilots who had a lot of experience between them. Anvit, what are the details that you're getting now about who was aboard this flight, the pilots who were in charge of this flight?
See, if we talk about the people who were on board, starting with the captain of the flight, the Captain Sumit Sabarwal was handling the flight. He was an experienced pilot with more than 8,200 hours of flying, and his first officer was Clive Kunda, who also is said to have at least more than 1,100 hours of flying experience. Now, these were the 2 pilots. Other than that, there were 10 cabin crew that was on board the aircraft, and other than that, so in total, there were 242 passengers that were on board this aircraft. Now, this was a London to Ahmedabad to Gatwick flight. We are being told that it was a Dreamliner. It's usually a big aircraft of a capacity of at least handling at least 240 to 250 passengers. And the kind of incident, Rahul, it is, the kind of accident and the visuals that are coming in, they are clearly indicative of the fact that the magnitude of the incident is huge. Not just the people who were on board the aircraft, but also because when we see in the visual that the aircraft's flight path is lowering, the flight is going down instead of taking off. Yes. Then it clearly suggests that the flight is right above the residential area. In fact, the visuals that have come on from the ground, they also show locals have gathered around the crash site. Other than the first responders, be the police, the ambulances, paramedics, or the disaster management authorities, and the firefighters. Along with that, we can also see hundreds of locals have gathered there, because it is a residential area and there are certain, it's a heavily inhabited area, and that is one reason why it is also being feared that there could be casualties from on ground as well, not just the people who were on the aircraft and the way.
Just hold your thoughts, Anvit. I just want to quickly update London Gatwick. The airport management has also issued a statement clearly intended, of course, for those who were expecting their loved ones to come to London. As you know, viewers, this is peak holiday season in India, and there would be a lot of flights between India and London, London being one of the favored destinations for Indian passengers. So these pictures, Anvit, a confirmation really of the fact that the flight would have been packed really. This Dreamliner plane, Boeing Airlines in any case, has been under a little bit of controversy over the past few years. Anvit, over to you again for updates.
And Rahul, also keeping the incident in mind, as a result, this Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, that is the Ahmedabad airport, that has also been made non-operational right now. So all the flight operations are temporarily suspended until further notice, and the airport authorities have said that passengers are advised to check their status of flight and with the airlines and check the latest updates before proceeding to the airport. So following this incident, flight AI-171 that had crashed outside Ahmedabad airport, that was bound to London Gatwick. That has crashed, and following that, the airport has shut its
Let me
operations.
also very quickly read out this statement, Anvit, stay on with me. N. Chandrasekharan, chairman of Air India, has put out a statement saying, with profound sorrow, I confirm that Air India flight AI-171 operating Ahmedabad, London, Gatwick was involved in a tragic accident today. Our thoughts and deepest condolences are with the families and loved ones of all those affected by this devastating event. At this moment, our primary focus is on supporting all the affected people and their families. We're doing everything in our power to assist the emergency response teams at the site and to provide all necessary support and care to those impacted. Further updates will be shared as we receive more verified information. An emergency center has been activated and support team have been set up for families seeking information. Anvit, do we have any idea about casualty figures as of now? We are being told that unofficially there are 30 deaths that have been verified, but these are not still confirmed officially. These are first responders who are relaying information. Anvit.
Yes, around 30 number of 30 people, 30 fatalities is coming out, but certainly in these incidents, what really happens is that number of fatalities go up gradually, because the number of people who are being taken out of the aircraft and from the debris, they will be rushed to medical facilities. Many of them, there is a possibility, it depends on the magnitude of crash, however, but there is a possibility that many of them can also survive the crash, given the fact that they are provided with the medical facilities on priority and with no delay. But that also certainly, and completely depends on the kind of injuries they have sustained. If it is an injury that can be managed, and if it's not a fatal injury, then certainly there are chances that when you get medical facilities in time and without any delay, then certainly their chances of survival increase. So gradually, given this, what we are learning from the sources that from on ground is that the number of fatalities, unfortunately may go up. But yes, initial number is somewhere 25 to 30 people who have been confirmed.
With a green corridor to transport injured passengers for treatment into hospitals is being established as we speak. So we've already seen certain people being wheeled into hospital. We don't quite know if they're passengers or if they were bystanders. Anvit has been telling us that the area that the plane crashed in is heavily residential in nature and densely packed, and you can see in fact those visuals in the middle of your screens. That's the moment of the crash. You can see that it flew over a number of chawls and densely packed locales which are in its flight path. Now Anvit, if you really look at these pictures, it shows you that there was not much lift that the plane acquired right after takeoff. That's not the normal trajectory of a plane. Mayday call issued. The wheels, entire landing gear has not even been retracted, Anvit.
Yes, that is correct. Also, in these incidents, the last moment communication between the pilot and the ATC is usually very crucial in investigation of such crashes. So once the investigation begins, the black box will be retrieved, and the data from the black box will clearly suggest that what was the
there was Anvit a Mayday call that was issued by the pilots. So clearly they realized very early on that there was a problem. Stay on with me. I want to bring in Payal Mehta. She's got some updates. Payal, over to you.
Rahul, what I do understand that both Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Gujarat CM, Bhupendra Patel have spoken to Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister. Ram Mohan Naidu, currently is in Vijayawada, and there is no direct flight to Ahmedabad from there. So he's been flown in a special flight. He's been rushed to Ahmedabad to look into the situation, and he's going to reach there by about 5 p.m. The concerning news that is coming in is, of course, that of Vijay Rupani, the former Gujarat Chief Minister, being on board on that flight as well. But what his office currently is telling us, Rahul, is that he's badly injured as well. We'll have to just wait and see for more updates. But most unfortunate scenes coming to the fore, and like you're mentioning, like Anvit is reporting, that the government of the day is very, very concerned about the episode, and they'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
And therefore, the emergency teams have been rushed. And so have the investigation teams have already been rushed.
Yes, 3 national disaster response force teams comprising 90 personnel have been moved, as Payal was saying, from Gandhinagar to the plane crash site. A total of 3 more teams are being moved from Vadodara, according to the NDRF. Let's listen into some reactions that we're picking up from the ground. These are eyewitnesses.
एयर क्रैश जो भी हुआ, जो उसमें शायद विजय भाई उसमें आज होंगे, ऐसा थोड़ा बहुत न्यूज़ आता है, ये न्यूज़ कंफर्म है या नहीं, it is very difficult to say. So we are highly intense situation कि क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा. प्रेस वाले जो है हम उनसे पूछते हैं कि भाई ऐसा क्या हुआ और कैसे हुआ. यदि आपके पास कोई कंफर्म न्यूज़ है तो आप हमको बताइए.
क्या बीजेपी लंदन जाने वाले थे?
Well, those were updates coming in on the identity of at least one passenger, former Gujarat Chief Minister, Mr. Vijay Rupani, who's on board. We don't know his condition as of now. We're getting conflicting details really about whether he's injured, but we will update you on all of that. The fact of the matter is right now, viewers, at 5 minutes past 3 in the afternoon, we have a statement, and that statement seems to suggest the following, and let me read out this statement to you. Flight AI-171 from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick earlier today was involved in a crash shortly after takeoff outside the airport. Those pictures in the middle of your screens tell you exactly what happened because it captures the moment of the crash. Because of the crash, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, Ahmedabad is currently not operational. That's the latest detail there. All flight operations are temporarily suspended until further notice. So if you were expecting to travel from that airport, we'd advise you to check with your airline. And of course, people who were expecting to land in a particular space time after taking off from this airport will also be advised to contact their loved ones and relatives and inform them. We're putting out this statement. Passengers are also advised to check with their respective airlines for the latest updates before proceeding to the airport. This is a statement that has been put out by the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport spokesperson. We also have some other news coming out that seems to tell us now a little bit more about the scenario on the ground. So this is a report that has been filed. Let's go straight across to it.
इस वक्त मैं मौके पर हूँ. ये बेगानी नगर का इलाका है. मैं कैमरामैन को बोलूँगा कि आप देखिए कि यहाँ एयर इंडिया की जो टेल वो टेल यहाँ पर किस पर आई है और सामने वहाँ पर
Well, that was one very quick overview really of the situation there. In the middle of your screens is the moment of the crash, and you can see that there was a catastrophic failure of lift moments after this plane took off. The plane would have been heavily laden with ATF given the fact that it was on a long haul flight from Ahmedabad to Gatwick, which is an airport just outside of London, and it crashed almost immediately after taking off. Even the landing gear had not been retracted on that plane, and it crashed into a very densely populated area. The exact crash site, conflicting reports once again, but we are being told was an under construction site. A building was being constructed there, and you can see in the backdrop of those pictures to the left of your screens that there is a building that stood in the way of that aircraft. The fuselage of the aircraft and the wings, etc., scattered all over a wide area. We don't know if there were casualties on the ground. This is a quick summary really of the accident. The aircraft was a Boeing 787, registration VT-ANB, which is also its call sign. It was run by Air India, of course. The flight was A1171. It was on its way from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. It had a total of 242 passengers on board, including 2 pilots and a cabin crew of 10. So passengers by themselves were 230, but 2 pilots and a cabin crew of 10. It took off at 13:39. It was delayed by a few moments. As it used runway 23 at Ahmedabad, it issued shortly after takeoff a Mayday call. No response after the Mayday call because, as you can imagine, there's very little response time for the pilots to take any action to avert a crisis. Let's go straight across to Anvit for more details. What can you tell us, Anvit?
We are looking forward to get details as to what happened and what transpired in this entire incident, as to understand that what actually happened because we can see clearly in the news that the flight was taken off. what the time given of the time of departure. The flight took off, but the flight path, we can't see that it had good elevation as it could have had. So that also depends on a lot of factors, a lot of technical factors as well. And also the last moment conversation between the pilot and the ATC, that would also have much to reveal, because before the Mayday call was made, whether there was any communication, whether the pilot had communicated any flaw or any glitch while they had taken off from Ahmedabad airport. So that will also play an important role, and the retrieval of black box certainly.
Well, one quick update. We're being told that the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, will be leaving for Ahmedabad. He's expected to take off by 4 p.m. So that's a quick update for you there. Anvit, you were talking a little bit about the on-ground arrangements that are being made now to try and affect some relief. Can you give us more details on that?
So I was saying that more technical details are awaited, and that is what will actually give a clear picture as to what happened and what led to this unfortunate incident. Last moment conversation between ATC and pilot, and also the communication that was sent out by the aircraft to the ATC, and that will also have much to reveal as to what eventually happened that led to this crash. The elevation part was certainly low, the elevation was less, and that is what we can see in the visuals also. The flight was only going down, it was decreasing, and it was on decline, which is the reason why it was a residential area and the plane has crashed out of Ahmedabad.
We're getting some details and updates, Anvit, stay on with me, from Payal Mehta now on the possibility of the former Chief Minister of Gujarat being on this flight. Payal.
You know, Rahul, the passenger list, shows unfortunately Mr. Rupani was on board and is identified as passenger number 12. We've been trying to get in touch with his family and, probably people in his office as well. But we're just given to understand that as of now, they're saying that he's badly injured. We do not know anything for a matter of, confirmation as well. But, when the passenger list was reviewed by our colleagues, including Anvit, it showed very, very clearly that he was on board on that flight. What is really happening to him right now is just a little too early to jump the gun, because obviously we have to wait for the confirmation coming in either from the Gujarat government or, from his family as well. But, most unfortunate episode coming to the fore, the passengers who were on board are to go to London, and frequent passengers go to London at this point in time, from Gujarat in particular. Most unfortunate thing coming to the fore, but the government of India has assured Rahul that they will get to the bottom of this, and of course that's the reason Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, and the Gujarat Chief Minister, all three sticking to Civil Aviation Minister Rammohan Naidu. This is going to be one big challenge for him as well in his 1 year career as a Civil Aviation Minister of the country. He's been rushed in a special flight to Ahmedabad, should be landing there around 5 o'clock, is what we were given to understand, but all rescue teams have been mobilized. And he's also, made sure that the investigating teams are also mobilized and sent ASAP to Ahmedabad to figure out what really is happening. Meanwhile, the civil, departments of the Gujarat government have also been on task. I'm very, very sure that Harsh Sanghvi, the Home Minister of the state, is already on the job as well. The Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, has also spoken to multiple people, including having spoken to the Commissioner of Ahmedabad as well. So that was awaited, but we confirmation on Mr. Rupani coming in either from the Gujarat government,
yes,
or his family, and we should not really speculate at this point in time about anything.
Well, Payal, the Director General of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, with the team leaving for Ahmedabad for investigation. This is also something that we're learning from our sources at the Ministry of Civil Aviation. So clearly, in the first few hours, there has to be a thorough investigation from the ground, collecting of evidence, etc., etc. And just one hopes that the scene of the crash is not compromised. There are, of course, pictures coming in to the left and to the right of your screens of the aftermath, the devastating aftermath. In the middle of your screens, viewers, is the moment of the crash, and you can see that there was very little reaction time. Now, Payal, in a situation like this, what is the protocol that is usually followed in government? Will there be immediate meetings to determine the next steps? What exactly is on the cards?
There will be immediate meeting that's going to be there, and of course the Civil Aviation Ministry will do its own probe.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, that probe teams have been rushed as
okay.
well.
We're also being told, hold your thoughts, Payal, just hold your thoughts. I want to go straight across to Arunima for an update on the Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Yes, Arunima.
Yes, so Home Minister Amit Shah is just flying off to Ahmedabad. He is the local member of parliament as well. And this is coming at a time when people are still speculating. These are just speculation. Nobody is confirming it as yet. But there are speculations whether this was an accident or whether this was an act of sabotage. So since he is also the Union Home Minister, both in his dual role as the Home Minister and the local Member of Parliament, and somebody who knows Gujarat like nobody else does, he's already spoken to the Chief Minister, and his presence there is aimed to aid rescue and relief efforts. From the central government side, if anything that the state government requires to retrieve the situation, if there are any survivors, if they need any medical aid, if they need to be flown out of Ahmedabad, taken to Bombay, taken to Delhi, whatever needs to be done, I think the best man is being put on the job by the Prime Minister. The local Member of Parliament, the Union Home Minister rushing to Ahmedabad, should be flying off within the hour is what we are told.
Yes, we're also being told, of course, and I just reported this, the Director General of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau with his team is leaving for Ahmedabad for an investigation. This is according to Ministry of Civil Aviation sources, because viewers, in the right aftermath of a crash, you need to sanitize and in some ways or the other ensure that the scene of the accident is, or the crash is not compromised, because there's important, very important details that emerge from there. I want to go straight across to Griha, who has a list of the passengers aboard. Our prayers, of course, with each one of them. Griha.
Distressing times, Rahul. We are only, our heart goes out for any family members who possibly are watching this. This is the list that has been, in fact, put out. It has been released, and there you can see passenger number 12. There has the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Vijay.
क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रिलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे। यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें। जितनी पुलिस, उसके अलावा जितनी भी एजेंसी, आर्मी, बीएसएफ, सीआईएसएफ, कॉर्पोरेशन, कलेक्टर ऑफिस के सभी स्टाफ, सभी यहाँ काम में लगे हुए हैं। प्लीज हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए, ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू।
We're talking about the passenger list that has been accessed by CNN News 18. We are only hoping that the family members, you are not watching, but this is the list that has been released. Here you can see passenger number 12, if we can close in on this particular list, has the former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani's name on it. It says boarded. He in fact was very much there on that flight. We do not have any details as of now from his office about Mr. Rupani's whereabouts, so we don't want to in fact draw anything up for conjecture, but this is what we are in fact seeing through this particular list that is out. Let me also give you a lowdown on the kind of people, the nationalities that they belong to, or the people, the 242 people who were on board this ill-fated flight. We are learning through this particular list, and there are nationalities here, Rahul, where we learn of many people, not just Indians but also from Britain, who were on board. They had the British passport, so about 52 British individuals were on board this aircraft. Also one Portuguese from this list that we learn of, and the rest were Indian. So this is what this list in fact lays bare, the number of passengers who have boarded, several of them also children. That's how distressing this is, because we are talking about 242 in this case, and also a statement there, confirmation that Gujarat, the former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani had boarded this particular flight.
Very, very unfortunate scenes, viewers. To the left is a flight manifesto, at least parts of it, and you can see that this was a flight that was carrying a large number of citizens from different parts of the world, including British citizens. There you can see Griha just talked us through some of those people. Let's go straight across to Yesha for more details. Yesha, what can you tell us? We know that this flight has crashed moments after it took off. We're being told that it crashed into a doctor's hostel.
Absolutely. In fact, this very flight that we speak of was an Air India flight from Ahmedabad headed towards London. It was involved in a crash shortly after the takeoff. And right outside the airport, details emerged as to within 8 to 9 minutes of the takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Airport, was where the flight in fact took off, and it has in fact fallen into a residential area. All of these are preliminary details which have emerged. In fact, more details speak about how the Home Minister is also headed towards Ahmedabad to take a stock of the situation. The Prime Minister has also spoken to the Civil Aviation Minister and has asked all of them to head to Ahmedabad and to ensure all possible assistance possible. What's also important to note is that as of now, details from local sources have spoken about how there have been more than 40 bodies that have been brought to the hospital. So far, no official source has in fact gone ahead to mention as to what can be the toll here, but it seems to be a massive tragedy, particularly because so far Ahmedabad Airport has also been kept non-operational for any further flights from here on, which is where all the local authorities have been rushed to the spot, and there are expected to be more than 200 people who would have been on board that very flight. So yes, all the particular stakeholders responsible, be it the Tata Airlines or for that matter, other stakeholders, they've all been kept on tenterhooks to ensure that that those who are injured or those who are involved there, plus residents who've been injured in that very incident, are rushed to the local hospital. All the local authorities have been kept on alert. Yes.
Yeah, well, the updates that are coming in now, of course, official sources, and we're not going to, of course, play out anything that hasn't been verified. So what we're now being told is that Captain Sumit Sabarwal was an LTC with 8,200 hours of experience. The co-pilot had 1,100 hours of flying experience. As per ATC, the aircraft departed from Ahmedabad at 13:39 Indian Standard Time or 8:09 UTC from runway 23, and most importantly gave a mayday call to the ATC, but thereafter no response was given by the aircraft to the calls made by the ATC. So viewers, very little response time there. The Union Home Minister is on his way at 4 o'clock to Ahmedabad. He is also going to be overseeing the rescue and relief efforts. We know that this plane crashed almost within minutes of takeoff. You can see that it was reduced to a ball of flames, towering ball of flames. And I want to go across to Mr. Mark Martin, who's a technical expert, for more on this. Mr. Martin, catastrophic loss of lift, it would appear. Even the landing gear had not retracted. What do you make of the incident? Mr. Martin, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, thanks for having me. Well, from what we know, I think it's very, very initial, and I don't believe it's right that we speculate on this, but I think from what we know so far, this guy had about 254 passengers on board. The 787 capacity is 265, so it is almost a full aircraft. He was full with fuel and cargo. He took off. And I think what appears to be the issue here is that the power assurance that he was trying to get from both his engines, those really didn't help and support him much. So, I mean, the pilots that were flying were very qualified. They had a TRI. There was one of the pilots was a TRI, which is a examiner and instructor and a senior captain. So obviously he was well versed with the situation and knew how to deal with emergencies. So clearly, I think a full-blown investigation has to be called into this. The DGCA must be involved. The AIB should be involved. We should also get EASA and the FAA and TSB, because this is the world's first 787 crash. Never have we seen a crash. And what is worse is that the 787 has been flying with Air India for the last 15 years, and with zero incidents except for minor maintenance issues and spare parts. And this is the first time we've seen a catastrophic event after the takeover of Air India by Singapore Airlines. So clearly there's clearly there has to be a holistic investigation into the entire incident and event, and we need to get to the bottom of this because this is going to send a rippling message to the world on the efficacy and safety of the 787, which has been one of the safest aircraft ever produced by Boeing.
So are you saying that there has been no crash prior to this of this particular airline? Is that what you're saying?
This particular aircraft, the 787 Dreamliner, 787
Sorry, what I meant was the aircraft. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, the 787 Dreamliner. This aircraft, there has never been a crash ever. Even when this aircraft was operated by Air India and the Government of India management, the 787 performed beautifully for Air India because Air India was the launch customer for the 787 and it had error-free flying. Sure, there were maintenance issues, there were groundings, but back then this aircraft was one of the best, and it still is. It still is a technology trendsetter.
Well,
so clearly,
let me just hold on, Mr. Martin. I'm also being joined by Mr. Devesh Agarwal, who's an aviation minister. I would like, aviation expert. I want you to stay on with me. I want to also bring in Mr. Agarwal and involve him in this conversation. You've probably seen the pictures, Mr. Agarwal. They obviously tell a catastrophic story, horrific story, heart-sinking visuals. Moments after takeoff, the plane loses what appears to be power and crashes into a very densely packed residential / habitated area right outside the perimeter of the airport. What do you make of this? What's your assessment, preliminary assessment?
Let me first preface by offering my deepest condolences to the families of the bereaved and my prayers that they find survivors. In fact, my cousin sister works in the civil hospital where the aircraft crashed. She was unable to talk because there was quite some smoke. She was telling me that there is a student hostel immediately adjacent to the building in which the aircraft crashed, and there are students who are not accounted for. So again, prayers that they have not been victims of this crash and they may have just stepped out of the building. So that is where I'm going to preface it. I was listening to what Mark was saying. Yes, this is the first quote-unquote accident. There have been, I'm not sure if there has been a hull loss earlier due to the grounding. For sure, India's AAIB, Air Accidents Investigation Board, will be involved. And from the United States, you will get the NTSB because it is the aircraft is made in the United States. I don't see EASA playing any role because they are the European regulator. Definitely there will be representatives from Boeing and from GE because this was a Gen X engine. The launch customer was All Nippon Airways I forget the exact date, but they used the Rolls-Royce engine on their 787s. Japan Airlines and Air India, they used the General Electric Gen X engine, and there was an issue right at the beginning which delayed deliveries of the GE equipped or rather GE powered 787s. So this was delivered in January 2014, but its serial number is 26. That means this was the 26th aircraft or 787 that was made. But as I said, 11 years is nothing in terms of this aircraft. It's a very modern aircraft, as Mark said very correctly. Modern systems on board. I see the video, and obviously there has been a loss of lift. Why that has been a loss of lift is what I think everybody's going to focus on. From what I could discern from the ADSB data, the aircraft was traveling at roughly around 174 knots, which is close to 350 kilometers. It achieved a height of right around 700 odd feet. It was ascending at roughly about 900 feet per minute, which is pretty decent for immediately after takeoff. So, I mean, this has happened literally a minute or two after takeoff. The ADSB data shows that it has happened within a minute or so of liftoff. So, and you can see the landing gear is still down. So, why they have had such a major loss of lift? The General Electric Gen X engines, if you see, they power all the 777s in the world. They power the 747s and a good number of 787s, and they are a very, very, very reliable engine. To the extent, I think, you can see India operates, Air India operates the San Francisco to India flights, and they spend large periods of time over the North Pole near the Siberian Arctic, very far away from airports. And the GE engines are rated to allow pilots to fly as far as 6 hours away from the nearest airport. That's how reliable these engines are. And whether it's regulators or designers, they feel confident in terms of the engine reliability that it will not fail. Even if one engine fails, an aircraft is certified to at least take off. So it may not be able to maintain high altitude, but it will definitely take off, and tests are done. In fact, there are videos online where there's been a case of a Lufthansa A321 taking off from Frankfurt, and a bird got sucked into its engine and the aircraft took off. So I don't want to speculate. Surely there's been a loss of lift, but why that has happened is very difficult to say.
Is it unusual? Is it unusual for both engines to? I presume this would have been a result of both engines. There was a Mayday call that was issued by the pilots.
Correct.
Of course, the ATC didn't have time to respond because obviously there was very little reaction time. But
Right.
is it usual for both engines to pack up?
No. No, sir. That's what I'm saying. It is unusual for even one engine to fail. That's what I was saying. The GE engines, this is based, the Gen X engine was a derivative of the very famous GE 90 series engines, which are extremely long-lived engines. I can't even hazard a guess. Maybe Mark will know how many GE 90 total family engines, but I would venture to
there's an accident, but उससे ज़्यादा खबर मेरे को नहीं आगी. ਅਸੀਂ तो यही प्रार्थना कर रहे हो कि जिन्हें all those who were on board should be all right, and we should await the news. I don't think one should speculate on that.
सर पंजाब पाइपलाइन ने चार्ज भी सर
हाँ जी, वो तो पहले यार खबर तो ले लो पूरी.
Well, viewers, there are all sorts of course, inputs that are coming in. We don't want to really lend anything to any rumor. So we're going to continue to stick with the official record that we are being shared moment to moment by the authorities. I can tell you that the last update, and Devesh Agarwal is here with us, and we're going to stick with him. But I want to quickly go across for more updates to Payal. Now we know a few things. For example, that this particular flight did send out a Mayday call. The pilots did call for help. There was very little time for the ATC to do anything about it, and clearly for the pilots to also react. It was a craft laden with ATC, which explains why there was this huge ball of fire and flame that rose up into the horizon. But what are the updates you have, Payal, right now for us to share?
Rahul, of course, the investigation teams are on their way, and it's just for them to come out and do the entire investigation. Of course, a lot of talks have been doing the rounds as far as the efficiency of these engines are concerned. The expert that you were just speaking to, as in terms of what could be the reason as well, we do not want to speculate at this point in time. And added as the government has also assured us that they will be giving us timely updates, from time to time, telling us what really is happening. But the man whose soundbite that you just played right now will definitely, Rahul, know a thing or two about how the aviation industry really works. Hardeep Puri has very successfully led the country as a civil aviation minister. It was during his regime that the entire merger of Air India and Vistara took place, and the Tatas took over as well. So he definitely will know a thing or two about the technicalities as far as that is really concerned. But like I said, at this point in time, the government of the day wants to make an effort to have all the hands on the deck, whether it's the rescue and relief operation that is being, of course, led by the Gujarat state government, and therefore you have the Union Home Minister, who is also a member of Parliament from Gandhinagar, which is of course the capital city of Gujarat. He's rushing there. He also, he also controls the disaster management teams across the entire country. So his being present there on ground will also give a lot of solace to the locals once he goes there and gets the situation on ground. And a short time, after which, of course, Ram Mohan Naidu, civil aviation minister, very young in his civil aviation ministry days, his first year just about getting complete, reaching there as well. So obviously that's going to be a all hands on the deck approach that has been put in place. Bhupendra Patel, in fact, has also spoken to Home Minister Amit Shah in the past, and has also spoken to Rammohan Naidu as well. So he's also marshalling all the resources, including his ministers being on ground as well. We can just hope and pray that the casualties are minimum, but we'll have to just wait and see on the numbers, because many people are being rushed to the nearest hospitals possible. All kind of help is being given, and therefore the Union Health Minister has also asked for all medical help to be rushed to the accident site as soon as possible.
Well, let me go across to Devesh Agarwal. Thanks indeed for that update from Pyle there. We're also being told that the Union Home Minister is on his way to Ahmedabad. He's going to depart at about 4 o'clock from Delhi. The AIB is already sending 3 teams to go and scour the crash site for clues, etc. We were speaking to Devesh Agarwal, aviation expert, who expressed dismay at the catastrophic failure of the Gen X series of GE engines, which he says are very, very reliable. In fact, Mr. Agarwal said that the plane can fly on one engine. For 2 engines to fail is very unusual. Would you still stick by that statement, Mr. Agarwal, and give us a little bit of a background on this engine?
Well, one thing, please, as I said, I never ever said that there's a failure of the Gen X engine at all. I said there is a loss. From the video, we can make out that there is a loss of lift on the aircraft.
Okay.
What has happened is obviously going to be determined by the accident investigators. I was only saying that the GE Gen X engines are extremely reliable engines. They are fitted on more than half of the world's 787 fleet, and I can't even recall how many 787s are currently operating, but they're in the hundreds. And it's a very reliable aircraft. Please, I've never made that statement. Please, is my humble request, because this is a sensitive time, and I am a person by nature. I don't like to speculate on reasons for a crash. We have seen a loss of lift, and that is, the crew has been very experienced. It's a very experienced crew. It is a stable aircraft. What has happened will obviously be,
What can sometimes trigger a loss of lift, Mr. Agarwal?
See, you could have a loss of engines. You could have, and why did those engines lose the power? Is it a bird strike, or is it possible that you get what is called a microburst, wind shear? What happens is, in this normally though happens in thunderstorm conditions. You have air rising and a column of air shooting down towards the ground. And so it sort of tends to push the plane down. If you remember, Delta Airlines had a crash, if I remember, Delta 191 back in Dallas-Fort Worth, which was as a direct result of a microburst right as they were getting ready to land at the airport. So we don't know why there is a loss of lift. And to be honest with you, one engine failing itself is out of the very, very far-fetched possibility. Both engines failing is an impossibility. There is obviously something else that has happened that has caused the loss of lift. These 2 engines are too reliable. And as I pointed out, the aircraft could have climbed with one engine. So definitely there has to be some other reason. We just don't know. We absolutely don't know. You can see the pilots have not even retracted the gear. So the aircraft is not in what we would call in a clean condition. So it's what, 700 feet off the ground. It's at a climb rate of 1,000 feet per minute. That means that 70% of a minute, less than 45 seconds after takeoff. It's just within 45 seconds to a minute after takeoff. There's obviously something else that has happened that has caused this loss of lift, and that's what needs to be investigated. And I really do hope that the Indian government, the AAIB, takes a lead. If you recall the way the NTSB gave timely updates, they had public briefings and timely updates, and they accepted questions from the press, or rather the media, and they gave timely information. That, I think, is what is going to be the determinant of how India and Air India is viewed by the world of
True,
aviation.
of course. I'm sure that the government will do what it has to do, Mr. Agarwal. The point of this entire broadcast right now is to give you quick updates, really, on what has transpired. So Mr. Agarwal, just stay on with me. I want to walk our viewers through what we know definitively. About 2 hours back, the Air India plane, a Dreamliner, takes off from Ahmedabad airport. It is on its way to Gatwick, but the moment after it takes off, even before it could retract the landing gear, there is a catastrophic loss of lift. The aircraft collapses through the sky. You can see those pictures in the middle of your screens into what we're being told is a doctor's hostel attached to a medical college. Immediately you see a fireball that emerges above the horizon. The crash site is a very, very thickly populated area just beyond the perimeter of the Ahmedabad airport. The flight path directly under it are a large number of residential buildings. We don't have updates from whether there have been casualties on the ground unrelated to the passengers who have been on board. If there has been collateral damage, we have no clue about that. We can confirm that some people who are injured have been rushed to hospital. Whether they were passengers or others, we can't confirm. On your right is the immediate aftermath. You can see almost nothing is left of the plane. There is a picture of the tail sticking out of a portion of the building. What we can tell you is that the two pilots were very, very experienced and that they had issued a Mayday call. Why this particular flight lost lift, we don't know. Nothing on record as of now. I want us to go straight across and listen into this soundbite from the local police authorities. Let's go straight across to that.
इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें। जितनी पुलिस, उसके अलावा जितनी भी एजेंसी, आर्मी, बीएसएफ, सीआईएसएफ, कॉर्पोरेशन, कलेक्टर ऑफिस के सभी स्टाफ, सभी यहाँ काम में लगे हुए हैं। प्लीज हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू।
Okay, there's that new video there, and you can see the what appears to be at least one part of the plane sticking out of a building, or seems to have settled on top of the building. Very difficult to say from this angle, but certainly you can see that that might be a part of the wing, which of course bears the fuel at some levels. I'm not an expert, so I would like Mr. Agarwal to come in on this. And before that, a quick update from Payal. Payal, what can you tell us?
In the wake of this unfortunate episode which has taken place, Rahul, a helpline has already been issued by the Gujarat government, by the Gujarat state government, and also by the Ministry of Civil Aviation for anybody who wants to establish contact if they can't find their loved ones. That is something which has been done. The government of the day is committed, like I said, to the well-being of every individual, and therefore the officials are requesting, like you just played out the soundbite, requesting everybody not to crowd the streets, not to come to the accident site, but allow a green corridor so that anybody who needs to be rushed for medical help can be done at the earliest as well. And we've just got a tweet which has been put out by Dr. Jaishankar, who is of course a Rajya Sabha member of Parliament also from Gujarat, and he said that he's very, very deeply shocked and he's pained to learn about the flight crash in Ahmedabad, and his prayers are with the passengers and their families as well. He's currently overseas, so he's putting out that tweet expressing his deepest condolences for what has really happened.
Well, the nation in shock, viewers. We're getting a lot of reactions from the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, to several Chief Ministers of different states, to the Union Aviation Minister, who's on a special flight from Vijayawada straight across to Ahmedabad because there is no direct flight from there, at least available as of now. On the left is the debris, remnants of the craft. In the middle is the moment of the crash, heart-sinking moment really, viewers. This flight was almost full. It had 142 passengers aboard it, two very experienced pilots, who were in control and command, and they issued a Mayday call. Even before the ATC could respond, this plane goes up in flames. It crashes into a hostel, attached to a medical facility where doctors are in residence. We don't know whether they were in residence at that time. How many other people on the ground in this very densely packed crash site area have been affected? To the right, you can see that the obvious aftermath suggests that this was a very, very catastrophic result. Let me go across to Devesh Agarwal, Sanjay Leza, aviation expert, also there with us. Devesh Agarwal, a quick update from you on your take, and I also want to bring in right after that Mr. Sanjay Leza. Yes.
So basically, just to let you know, the world's most popular wide-body aircraft till date was the Boeing 777, and they had delivered little over 1,500. In case of the 787, they have already delivered around 1,200 aircraft, and they have orders for at least another 1,000 plus aircraft. So it shows you how popular this aircraft is, how reliable this aircraft is. This is the first fatal accident of a 787, whether of the Dash 8, which is the earliest version, the Dash 9, which is what Vistara has, and the Dash 10, which of course no Indian airline has ordered, but it is used a lot by British Airways, United Airlines, and others. The crew, as you just rightly pointed out, very experienced crew, and Air India has traditionally had a history of the engineering on their aircraft has always been good. We hear about, the interior of the aircraft, but the airworthiness of the aircraft has never been in question at Air India. That is something that airline has a legacy of, and it is a very proud and, strong legacy and a history at that airline that the aircraft are safe. So why that loss of lift has occurred, that is where it's going to be, I think that's where the investigation is going to focus. The particular aircraft details, this was registered VT-ANB, Alpha November Bravo, and it is the 26th 787 ever built. It was delivered to Air India in the middle of January 2014.
Well, thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for that input and for that very quick assessment. Of course, lots of details expected, so this story will be updated. The causes and the consequences will also, of course, become clearer as the day proceeds and perhaps over the next few days. Sanjay Leza, aviation expert, also here with us. Mr. Leza, what do you make of these pictures? Catastrophic, sinking feeling when you look at the picture in the middle specifically. But aside from that, a very, very, very unfortunate happenstance. Not very usual, is it?
No, it's a very sad day for aviation in general and Air India in particular and Indian aviation. My heart goes out to many of my former colleagues who've probably on that aircraft as well as in the company. Prayers and thoughts with them. Very tragic, and it's pretty certain, or it appears to be that either the aircraft had major engine failure, whether it's through ingestion of birds or just stalling, but you can see loss of power and the aircraft dropping, like Devesh was saying earlier. The 787 is one of the most sturdy aircraft which has not had any fatalities or any accidents like this so far in its history. This aircraft is only 11 and a half years old, so again a very new aircraft. Like he said also, that Air India aircrafts are very well maintained engineering wise, so that should not have been a problem. The pilots were very well experienced, more than 10,000 hours between them. So, really one is left scratching his head trying to figure out what could have been at the bottom of these two engines failing and the aircraft sinking. Also, it's rammed into a building which is a medical college and a medical college hostel. It was afternoon time, and we believe the lunch mess must have been full of kids who were studying in that hostel. So I worry about what may have happened over there. Part of the aircraft tail seems to have been lodged on the roof of that building, and the rest has collapsed beyond that. It's a very, very grim situation. We can see, we've already heard from sources in Ahmedabad that, almost 40 bodies have been recovered. We don't know what's happening so far. I think 11 or 12 were taken to hospital. Whether they have survived or not, we're not certain. We're still in the realm of speculation as far as that is concerned. But it's a black day for aviation in India and the world over, really.
Mr. Reza, from what we gleaned from our short conversation with Mr. Agarwal was that the Dreamliner can fly also on just one engine. So this sort of adds another layer to the fact that there was this catastrophic failure of lift. I don't know if it was engine induced, and neither did he want to actually hazard that guess, but what do you think really happened here? A Mayday call was issued, the landing gear hasn't been retracted, so it's very, very early in the flight. How would something like this anomaly gone undetected? Is it possible? Would checks have been, are checks conducted before a flight takes off for a long haul? What kind of checks are they? Can you just walk us through some of the preparatory procedures?
Well, there's no question about checks. Checks are taken whether it's a long haul or a short haul. There are detailed checks that go on by the ground engineers as well as the pilot himself. Either the first officer or the PIC does a walk around. Typically it's the first officer, they check. Systems are checked, so there's absolutely no question of not having been checked. You're right, so is Devesh, that the one engine could have helped it, but obviously it's clear from images. We don't have any data. We know that it took off 175 knots was the speed. We know it was a hot day, so the profile of the weather profile, takeoff profile must have been built according to that. Also very heavy aircraft, 240 passengers plus baggage plus fuel for a long haul flight to London. So it's not exactly light. Possibility of perhaps both engines having stalled is all I can say, because there's absolutely zero lift. When you look at the image that you're playing on your screen right now, it shows that the aircraft has struggled to lift off and is just not climbing. There's zero climb. And rightly, as you mentioned, the pilot did issue a Mayday call, which the DGCA itself has reflected in its press statement. And before the ATC could respond, it just hit the building and went up in a ball of flames. He couldn't direct the aircraft anywhere, could not maneuver it to safety.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Leza, the GE engine, the Gen X series of GE engines are known to be very reliable.
Very reliable. They are very reliable and very, very powerful engines. So I'm only speculating that there were birds that bird hit that happened. That's about it. I can't think of anything else. This was a major ingestion or something that caused both engines to stall. Because even in the videos that I've seen, I've not really heard the engines, the togas being introduced or the power of the engines coming into force. So I really can't tell. From this distance, sitting far away as we are, and we really is not fair to speculate beyond that.
True. A bird hit, could it result in this kind of an incident?
Multiple bird hits could stall the engine. It's about stalling the engine, and this is the most critical phase of flight, takeoff. As you all know, landing and takeoff are the most critical, but takeoff is particularly critical because you could lose complete power as we see as happened here. And the fact that he issued a Mayday call, just pushes us towards that conclusion, unless there was catastrophic failure in both engines that we do not know about as yet.
Mr. Leza, we were told that the Boeing could actually fly on one engine also, in case there was a bird hit to one. In this early period of flight, is that possible?
Well, I don't know if one engine would be able to lift an aircraft with, at this stage of flight with all that load. But be that as it may, it's pretty clear. You can't see the aircraft bank to either side. It's obvious that there seems to be total loss of power in this aircraft. Not from one, possibly both engines. That's what I can surmise from the videos and the data that we've received so far.
Yeah, well, the data, of course, at this instance is very, very sketchy, viewers. We're only getting information that we're reeling, that has been confirmed and put out by the authorities in question, because doing anything else would be to hazard misinformation, which is not our intention at all. But the pictures are now quite clear. There are first responders on the scene, a building, as you can see on the right, there's a lot of smoke emanating from that building. Clearly it's the ATF that is cloaked to that building. Whether there have been people inside that building that have also been affected, we don't know. We have seen bodies and being pulled out of the wreckage. We also have seen people the injured rather, being wheeled into hospital. Obviously, we can't tell you if those are passengers or if there were people on the ground, but the scenes are extremely overwhelming. Let's go straight across to the MOS of Civil Aviation who has spoken to our network. Let's play that out.
सर, हमसे बात करने के लिए शुक्रिया। मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि अभी फिलहाल वहां की स्थिति क्या है, किस तरीके से सरकार जो है वो मदद कर रही है।
जी, अभी तो वहाँ की जो गवर्नमेंट है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारे अधिकारी संपर्क में है। राहत बचाव का कार्य भी शुरू हो गया है जी, और हम भी घटनास्थल पे पहुंच रहे हैं। मैं भी थोड़ी देर में वहाँ पे पहुंचूंगा। माननीय HM सर, देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई भी वहाँ पे पहुंच रहे हैं। तो अभी सभी स्तर पे कार्रवाई शुरू है, काम शुरू है।
और सर, प्राइमरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में क्या कुछ सामने आया है कि एग्जैक्टली रीजन क्या था?
नहीं, अभी तक तो जांच चल रही है। अभी कुछ हम इस पे बात करना उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन उसकी जांच चल रही है। मैंने अभी भी मिनिस्ट्री में सभी वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों के साथ मैंने मीटिंग भी करी है, लेकिन उसको सामने आएगा एक्चुअली रीजन क्या है, वो सामने भी आएगा। लेकिन अब तो पहला काम हमारा है कि वहाँ के राहत बचाव का कार्य में हमें ध्यान देना है, पहले वो तो काम करना पड़ेगा।
मोदी जी, मुझे ये जानना है कि आंकड़े जो है कैजुअलिटी हो या फिर इंजर्ड हो, उनके अलग अलग आ रहे हैं क्या आपकी तरफ से?
नहीं, अभी तो कुल 242 लोग थे जी, 230 उसमें यात्री थे, 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो अभी तक तो कैजुअलिटी आ रही है सामने। अभी तक कोई ऑफिशियली कैजुअलिटी हम नहीं बोल रहे हैं, सभी जांच भी चल रही है। पहले तो राहत बचाव का काम शुरू है, बाद में उसका।
ये जो फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है वो रेसिडेंशियल एरिया में हुआ है, तो क्या वहां पे लोग कितने इंजर्ड हुए या वहां की कैजुअलिटी का कुछ आंकड़ा?
वही तो मैंने अभी कहा कि राज्य सरकार के संपर्क में हमारी सभी टीम है वहां पे। तो अभी सामने नहीं आ रहा है कि, लेकिन वहां भी राहत बचाव का कार्य जो शुरू है उसमें पहले तो इन लोगों को बाहर निकालना है। इनको इमीडिएटली वहां पे मेडिकल इमरजेंसी को पहले उनको वहां पे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करना है, मदद करना है।
I'm also joined by Captain Kishore Chinta, who is the Chief Pilot of Sirius India Airlines Private Limited. Thanks a lot, Captain Kishore, for joining us. I want to understand from you first, from what we know, within a minute or so of takeoff, this plane has crashed, and it has crashed in a scenario where it seems the pilots were not in control at all. They had already issued a Mayday call, and they actually crashed into a building. What do you make of what could have happened?
Ma'am, I've seen the videos. The 787 has 70,000 on each engine. For an airplane like a 787 to go down in a controlled manner like that, either they've lost both the engines, and Ahmedabad per se always has a lot of birds and vultures over there, up to almost 3,000 feet. It's speculation as of now. That either both the engines have to have had some kind of bird ingestion or a compressor stall or something like that for the engines to lose power. Otherwise, with just one engine, also the aircraft can climb out at 400 to 500 feet per minute for a aircraft of that size.
I just want to understand from you, these bird ingestion issues that you're talking about, how frequent are they?
Bird ingestion are infrequent, but there is always that risk, especially in airfields like Ahmedabad and Baroda and some other airfields. Ahmedabad has historically had bird activity in and around the airfield. So I am not saying that it could have been birded, but the fact that the pilots gave a mayday and we see the aircraft climb to max altitude on flight radar close to 625 feet, which would be about 425 feet off the ground. The airfield elevation is about 200 at Ahmedabad. So they did climb to 425 feet. On the aircraft, they could have engaged autopilot, but it appears to be that they've lost power in both the engines for the aeroplane to have come down in a controlled manner like that.
Yes. And because most experts like yourself are suggesting that even loss of one engine should not lead to a crash like this, I want to understand from you, if this was, let's say, a bird-related incident, can it take off both? Can it take out both engines like this so quickly after takeoff, within a minute or so?
It is possible, ma'am. Like the United aircraft, where Captain Sully Slumberger, went down into the Hudson. It is possible for both the engines to get affected by birds.
Okay, and looks like there would have been very little reaction time to control anything. What do you make of the situation the pilots would have faced if this, let's say, both engines went out so quickly after takeoff?
The pilots did a fabulous job keeping the wings level to minimize any kind of damage, and the aircraft's gone down in a controlled manner. They probably have done everything possible which they have been trained for a situation like this. But the rest we'll only come to know once more specifics come out from the flight data recorder and cockpit voice record.
I just want to understand from you also, because you are an expert in this field. Apart from a bird hit, what else can lead to a crash like this so soon after takeoff, where the speculation is that not just one but both engines went out? What else is a plausible reason?
I don't see another plausible reasons, ma'am. This has to be a loss of both the engines for the aircraft of the magnitude of 787 to go down in this manner. And this is the world's first ever Boeing 787 crash. So that's the track record of this aeroplane. And the pilots are highly experienced, well trained. So the only probable cause would be loss of power on both the engines, just at the time they were getting airborne.
And that's extremely rare, isn't it?
It's probably 1 in a million kind of scenario. There's probably nothing anyone could have done in this case. If there was no obstacles immediately after takeoff, probably they could have, glided down onto the ground to as minimal damage as possible. But with buildings over there, they seem to have landed on top of one of the under construction buildings. We do not know the damage or loss of lives on ground, but more details will be coming out as and when the DGCA Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau brings out details.
Just stay with me. Speaking of those buildings that this plane has crashed into, and I'm sure the pilots would have tried to avoid as much as possible, but it looks like they really couldn't avoid crashing into a building. We have information that the flight has crashed into BJMC, which is a hostel where many MBBS students stay. And these are some visuals also that we were running earlier of the hostel, including the canteen, etc., where there is damage because of the impact of this airline crash. And we don't quite yet know what the damage could be as far as students there in the building is concerned. But certainly news is coming in that some of them have been injured, and we hope that they get quick treatment. Praful Patel, former aviation minister, is also joining us over the phone line. Mr. Patel, thanks a lot for your time. Extremely sorry scenes that are coming in from Ahmedabad, and of course news of heavy casualties as well.
Very saddened to hear and very distressed at the same time. One of the biggest tragedies in our country, and unfortunately whatever visuals we are able to see on TV, that's all information we have. But considering that today's aircraft are very sophisticated, very technically advanced. To see a situation like this, unless we know the full details, will be very difficult to comment on that. But at the same time, whatever visuals we see on TV, our hearts go out to the passengers and their families. We don't know what is the fate of many, so I only pray and hope that most people survive this horrific crash.
Yes, the pilots were extremely proficient. Praful Patel, there are 133 casualties that we are getting latest updates on. We are hoping that some rescue operations are able to find some injured who can receive some treatment. But you know, many international passengers on board as well, and many countries on alert now, including UK. We are told that as many as 50 plus passengers were from UK. We are also told that former Gujarat Chief Minister Mr. Rupani was on board.
Well, I've seen Mr. Rupani's name on television, and having been a person who's known him for many years, I only hope and pray that he is well. But at this moment, there is no information about any of the passengers. And of course, as you said, there are many passengers of different nationalities, mostly UK, besides Indians. And I think we really feel very sad, you know, because at the same time, I would like to repeat that today's aircraft are very, very sophisticated. The pilots, especially who fly 787 Dreamliner, are obviously very well trained, and they are very senior commanders. And they've gone through many hours and hours of flying, and they would have obviously, it seems to me, whatever little I can make out from that the plane was on climb mode, and suddenly it's lost power or something else has happened, or maybe it was struggling at the time of takeoff. These are all very speculative things. But one thing is certain, if the pilot gave a Mayday call, we don't know the exact time of when he gave the Mayday call. Was it just immediately on climb, or
soon after takeoff, sir. In fact, within a few minutes, it seems this flight has crashed. It had barely reached the height of 700 feet.
This flight couldn't have flown more than 60 seconds because of the very fact that it's just 825 feet into the air, which is virtually nothing. It just would not take more than 60 seconds. So it is very intriguing because of the first, as I said, the aircraft itself has many backup systems. These are, you know, very fly-worthy, very safe aircraft, and 787s are flying all over the world. In fact, I would be surprised to see that probably this may be the first major incident with a 787.
Yes, actually we have been confirmed, sir, that as far as the 787 Dreamliner is concerned, this is the first major such incident that has come to light. Boeing has had some issues with grounding and all. There have been investigations whether they have, not done enough as far as maintenance and certain other activities on planes are concerned. But this certainly is the major crash of its first of its kind when it comes to a 787 Dreamliner.
Well, absolutely. A 787 Dreamliner, as I said, is being flown by most airlines of the world. And it's a very, I would say, a workhorse. It's a good aircraft. And in this case, it's flown from Delhi to Ahmedabad. So obviously it was absolutely flyworthy. Otherwise, no aircraft takes off. And pilots also, before they take off, they go through all the checks. And if they find anything missing, and especially if they are on a long haul flight like London, they would be absolutely very careful to see all parameters are fine before they would take off. So obviously something has gone wrong after they started their roll on the runway for takeoff. And in between that and the climb, those 60 seconds have been, I'm sure, very, very the reason for whatever has happened.
I do thank you for joining us, Praful Patel, the ex-aviation minister. Also reading out what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just put out. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened us. It is heartbreaking beyond words. In this sad hour, my thoughts are with everyone affected by it. Have been in touch with ministers and authorities who are working to assist those affected. We also know that Home Minister Amit Shah is travelling to Ahmedabad. My colleague Payal Mehta is also joining us with more on this. Payal, words coming in from Narendra Modi as well. Everybody offering, of course, their deepest thoughts to those who have been affected, including, of course, the families. Already 133 have been confirmed dead.
Yes, it is of course heartbreaking beyond words. That's what the Prime Minister really said. And this has happened in his hometown, which is in Ahmedabad. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened everyone. He has been in touch with the ministers and the authorities who are working to assist those who are affected. He has already spoken to Bhupendra Patel, the Gujarat Chief Minister, already spoken and asked Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister, to rush as well, and constantly been in touch with Amit Shah, another union minister in his government, the Home Minister, another son of the soil. So they've all been rushed. Maximum help needs to be assured is what the Prime Minister has also indicated in as many words as well. But a real tragedy coming to the fore as well. Many people have been feared dead in this, in this ghastly crash that we've really seen. Of course, the investigation will follow soon as possible is what the government is assured. But it's a very heartbreaking moment because many citizens on board Shivani were not just Indian nationals, but foreign nationals as well. But the government of the day has assured that they will get to the bottom of this and understand why this really occurred. But like I said, the Prime Minister joining the nation in expressing his condolences to what has really happened and to the loved ones.
One of the biggest aviation crashes in Indian history, and of course certainly the first concerning a Dreamliner. I want to go across to Rajesh Patani, who's an eyewitness to what happened. Rajesh जी, आपने क्या देखा जब ये क्रैश हुआ? आपने क्या देखा? आपको क्या दिखा? ये बताइए। राजेश जी, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? आप क्रैश के वक्त कहाँ थे? आपने क्या देखा? ये बताइए। Let's try and reconnect. We're trying to get you some more eyewitness accounts, but of course visuals of the crash are on screen, and they show that the flight had barely taken off. Within less than a minute, of course, this flight has crashed. It seems the pilots have lost all control because they couldn't even deviate the flight from a what seems to be a residential area. There was in fact a MBBS students hostel that has come into the path of this crashing airline, and the aircraft burst into flames immediately upon impact. Those visuals have also been caught by those who were living in the vicinity of the Ahmedabad airport. Captain Kishore Chinta continues to be with us. Captain, I want to understand from you, in such a short span of time, if both engines are lost, how much can captains do? How much can the pilots and the crew do in such a situation? What can they do?
There's not much the pilots can do other than look for an area where they can crash land the aircraft in the safest possible manner. So in this case, they barely had any height in hand to change the direction of the aircraft anywhere. See, the most prudent thing they could have done was to keep the wings level and glide into a path which is most safe, which would minimize casualties on impact with the ground, rather than having bank on, wherein the risk of the aircraft cartwheeling and more damage and more casualties. So the pilots probably did the most prudent thing, having probably lost power.
Okay, and how does this loss of power really happen? What causes it?
Loss of power could be either due to bird ingestion, the engine compressors stalling and not producing any more thrust. It would be really unlikely for engines of such magnitude and to lose power for any other reason for a technical defect just after takeoff. It's unheard of. It's those engines with 70,000 pounds of thrust have been tested multiple times, and one of the safest engines in the aviation world. So nothing else could have caused, in my opinion, the loss of power.
So this couldn't have been any kind of technical failure, and the most plausible reason you can think of is bird ingestion, but of the kind which took out both engines.
Yes, that's like I said, we can only speculate as of now. I haven't heard of a technical defect taking out both the engines just after takeoff ever in the aviation history.
Right. Certainly what has transpired is shocking everyone. This is already, as experts have told us, the first of its kind crash, including involving a 787 Dreamliner. And the way this crash has transpired, soon after takeoff, within a minute of takeoff at very low altitude, seems to suggest the pilots lost all control. They couldn't even divert the plane to a safer area, and it crashed immediately within a minute of takeoff. What also is concerning is that they seem to have lost all control, so both engines were out. There was a Mayday call given, but agencies tell us they didn't really manage to contact this flight after that. So it all points out to things going wrong very, very quickly. Harshit.
Yes.
Captain Kishore, I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. Harshit is an eyewitness of this crash. Harshit, आप कहाँ थे जब ये crash हुआ और आपने क्या देखा?
हम मेस में ही थे जहाँ पे ये प्लेन टकराया था।
अच्छा, तो आप स्टूडेंट हैं जो मेस में रहते हैं वहाँ पे हॉस्टल में?
हाँ, मैं कॉलेज से लाइब्रेरी से पढ़ के मैं यहाँ पे खाना खाने आया था 2 बजे।
तो फिर कैंटीन में भी वहाँ पे क्रैश हुआ प्लेन का पार्ट्स जो आप वहाँ पे खाना खा रहे थे?
हाँ, वहाँ पे सिर्फ टकराया था, प्लेन आगे क्रैश हुआ था।
अच्छा।
हमारी बिल्डिंग में सिर्फ टकराया था, इसलिए धमाके की आवाज आई।
अच्छा, आपके आसपास कितने लोग थे? कोई इंजर्ड है?
इंजर्ड इसमें ऐसा है कि जो बारी के पास खाना खाने बैठे थे उसको थोड़ा वो इंजरी हुई है, बाकी सब ठीक है।
अच्छा, कितने बच्चे हैं वहाँ पे?
खाना खाने के लिए तो यहाँ पे 50-60 लोग हम आए थे, ऊपर और नीचे दोनों।
अच्छा।
इंजरी सबको नहीं हुई है।
जी जी। और आप किस हॉस्टल में रहते हैं और कितने लोग हैं वहाँ पे?
हम अतुल्य में 11 में रहते हैं।
कितने लोग होंगे पूरे हॉस्टल में? कितने लोग रहते हैं वहाँ पे?
हम तो MBBS स्टूडेंट ही वहाँ से 1 से 5 साल तक के सभी बच्चे वहीं पे ही रहते हैं।
अच्छा। और
सब इसी मेस में खाना खाने आते हैं।
जी जी जी। और उस वक्त 50-60 बच्चे वहाँ पे थे जिस वक्त ये
खाने हाँ, ये खाना खाने का ही टाइम था, इसलिए वो सब वहाँ पे ही थे।
जी। आपकी जो बिल्डिंग है उससे ये प्लेन टकराया नहीं है, आगे जाके एक बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ है, तो आपको उस बिल्डिंग के बारे में कुछ पता है? क्या हुआ वहाँ पे, क्या देखा आपने?
वो अतुल्यम 1, 2 और 3 है, वहाँ पे वो रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर रहते हैं सभी, और ये सब मेडिसिटी के क्वार्टर्स ही है जहाँ पे ये प्लेन हादसा हुआ ना वही।
तो जिस बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ वहाँ पे रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर रहते हैं?
हाँ।
और उस बिल्डिंग में कितना इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, आपको कुछ जानकारी मिल रही है वहाँ पे?
ना वो नहीं पता। नहीं पता।
जी जी। पर आपका जो हॉस्टल है वहाँ पे सब सेफ है? कुछ लोगों को इंजरी हुई है?
हाँ, हॉस्टल से ये मेस पड़ा 1-2 किलोमीटर दूर है, इसलिए सब बच्चे हॉस्टल से मेस तक चल के खाना खाने जाते हैं, तभी ये सब हुआ।
अच्छा, मेस में उस वक्त जो थे वो सेफ हैं, लेकिन हॉस्टल में जाके ये बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ है जहाँ पे रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर्स रहते हैं। दिस इज ऑल्सो एक्सट्रीमली कंसर्निंग। हर्षित, हमसे बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। लेट्स ऑल्सो लिसन टू सम मोर रिएक्शंस कमिंग इन।
लगातार पिछले 2-2.5 घंटे से हमारी टीम उस पर काम कर रही है। हमारी सेक्रेटरी है, DGCA है, AI की टीम में सभी लोग, हमारी विकास की टीम, सभी लोग एक साथ बैठकर वहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं। और अभी हम DGCA, हमारे सेक्रेटरी मैं तो हम तो वहाँ पे अभी फिजिकली भी जा रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी इसका मॉनिटरिंग कर रहे हैं। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने नायडू जी से हमारी सभी लोगों से बात भी की है, वो मॉनिटरिंग कर रहे हैं। हमारे होम मिनिस्टर वहाँ पे पहुँच रहे हैं और मुझे लगता है कि सभी स्तर पे ये अभी राहत का कार्य बड़ी इमरजेंसी के लेवल पर
ऑडिट होगा क्या? सभी प्लेन का इंडिया के ऑडिट होगा?
नहीं, अभी तो आज मुझे लगता है कि पहली बात तो यह है कि हमें इससे पहले बाहर निकलना है। बाद में सब होगा, उसकी जांच होगी, उस पर रिपोर्ट आएंगे, उस पर असल में क्या रीजन है वो भी सामने आएगा। या मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा
सर,
टाइम
इन दिनों कंपनीज जो है सारी एयरलाइन कंपनीज, क्या वो बहुत सस्ता ले रही है क्या लोगों के जान को लेकर? क्योंकि कोई भी मतलब बारिश हो जाए तो प्लेन में कुछ होगा।
मुझे लगता है कि कोई जो रियल उसका रीजन है वो सामने आने तक थोड़ा सा
सर, जहाँ पे प्लेन गिरा वहाँ पे कुछ कैजुअलिटी हुई है?
लगता है, ऐसा लगता तो है, लेकिन थोड़ा सा मुझे लगता है कि ऑफिशियली थोड़ा सा
बिल्डिंग में कुछ लोग रह रहे थे ऐसे भी।
सर, डॉक्टर्स हॉस्टल बताया जा रहा है।
नहीं, यहाँ से एनडीआरएफ की टीम भी गई है, वहाँ पे बाकी सेना दल की टीम भी गई है। मुझे लगता है कि सभी जो टीमें हैं सभी लेवल पे वहाँ पे काम शुरू
All right. There is, of course, all hands on deck approach as far as the aftermath of this aircraft crash is concerned. Not only are concerned ministers moving to Ahmedabad, Home Minister Amit Shah is also expected to travel to Ahmedabad. Captain Kishore Chinta continues to be with us. This is, of course, a situation that will possibly need a lot of investigation to figure out what exactly happened, because it seems like a crash that hasn't really been seen of this nature and also of this aircraft itself before. So much deep investigation required as far as this case is concerned. Captain Kishore, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So the standard procedure of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is already on site, will follow the laid down protocol for fatal accident like this, and I'm sure they will do the due diligence with all possible data that can be collected from the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder and the eyewitness accounts. I'm sure no stone would be left unturned by the AIB inquiry team. I myself have done a fatal accident investigation, and I'm sure the actual cause would come out in due course of time.
Can you just take us in detail into what exactly will go into the investigation of this crash? The black box is going to become extremely crucial.
Yes, ma'am. The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder are manufactured to withstand crashes of this magnitude, and they will be recovered in due course of time, and they would be analyzed. All the data from the crash will be analyzed by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau team. They will piece together every single aspect of the flight path and the possible causes of why and what happened, whether it was loss of power, whether it was a technical defect. Everything will be there in the flight data recorder, and they will be analyzing that, and they will analyze the flight path of the aeroplane based on the data available, and the Mayday call will be recorded on the CVR as well as the ATC transcript of the radio transmissions which they received. All this will be correlated, and then the inquiry team will piece together their facts and figures and come out with the conclusion on
From the initial information that we're getting, we're being told that after the Mayday call, there wasn't any contact that was available with this flight. What could have happened to make it unavailable? Captain Kishore, I want to understand from you, if there is loss of power, does that mean that all communication also goes away? Could the pilots have recorded? How would they? How would we know if this was a bird ingestion? Can the investigation of the remaining parts establish that? Will there be something recorded from the cockpit that can establish that?
There are enough standby.
we're losing that link with Captain Kishore Chinta. We'll try and get a better one, but this is of course a horrible crash that has come to light. It has really raised alarms as far as the nature of this crash is concerned. 230 passengers on board, 12 crew including 2 pilots. Already we're getting figures that 133 have been declared dead, but of course rescue operations are ongoing. There is firefighting operations that are ongoing. You can see those visuals where parts of the plane have actually crashed into the building and they have been stuck into the building debris as well. My colleague Payal also continues to join us. Payal, more updates coming in from your end. What all do we know about the efforts that are ongoing? Plus, who all is expected in Ahmedabad?
We've just learned that Civil Aviation Minister of State Muralidhar Mahol, the DGCA team, and of course Civil Aviation Secretary Mr. Sameer Sinha, they're all being rushed to Ahmedabad also to be alongside Ram Mohan Naidu, Amit Shah and the others as well, and go into a thorough inquiry mode as far as this was concerned into the entire matter, and we're given to understand that they're currently on their way to Ahmedabad, and they will also be, joining the team and joining the rescue and relief operation as far as this is really concerned, because it's an all hands on the deck approach that Prime Minister Narendra Modi really spoke about, Shivani, it is of course a very, very tragic episode which has come to the fore, and therefore Mr. Muralidhar Mahol, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, along with the entire team from DGCA, the Civil Aviation Secretary, and the other technical officers are also being rushed to Ahmedabad just as we speak.
Yes. This is a crash that has really, in aviation history, experts point out, Payal, that this is definitely one of the worst crashes we have seen, and also given the aircraft involved and the nature of the crash, but also in India's history, this is one of the worst aviation tragedies we've seen.
Well, absolutely, nobody ever is prepared, for something like this as well. But what really led to this crash? What were the technicalities involved? We will only know once the DGCA team reaches there, the investigation team reaches there, and they find a black box that, Anvit was speaking about a little while ago. And only then will we know what really led to the crash, because it is pretty important to understand what led to the failure and what led to this tragedy within probably 40 to 50 seconds of the pilot, reaching out to the ATC. So obviously, all of these things are going to be there, but as of now, the most important thing is to in fact ensure maximum rescue and relief operation. Therefore, all hands on the deck. But it's the Gujarat administration, the Gujarat Chief Minister, the Gujarat Home Minister, Union Home Minister, who is also a son of the soil. Ram Mohan Naidu also currently on his way. He's a Civil Aviation Minister, and so is Muralidhar Mahol.
Updates that we're getting, Payal, also tell us that the railways have also decided to operate certain special trains to and from Ahmedabad. Anything more you're learning on that?
Special trains are going to be in place for passengers to fly either from there to Mumbai or to Delhi, because currently the airport at Ahmedabad stands shut as well. A lot of international flights are also likely to be diverted to other locations as well. So preparing for that, Ashwini Vaishnav, the Union Railways Minister, has just put out a series of tweets, essentially speaking about the kind of work that has to be done, and even if medical teams have to be rushed from nearby locations, the railways will also be putting in their maximum efforts as far as this is concerned. And again, like I said, it is an all hands on the deck approach that the Union government is adopting over here, because nothing more valuable than human lives being lost over here.
So, Payal, you're reporting that MOS Civil Aviation and DGCA Chief, Civil Aviation Secretary, all being rushed to Ahmedabad. They're about to reach the Delhi airport. But these are, of course, going to be special flights, isn't it? Because as you're mentioning, the Ahmedabad airport has been shut for civil activity as we speak. We're also getting updates that the Gujarat Chief Minister has reached the civil hospital where most of the dead are being taken. Most of the people or the dead bodies that have been taken there have I believe been declared dead on arrival. So not many survivors so far, but we're hoping for some good news as rescue and relief operations continue. But this is also going to be a huge challenge on ground. Those are some of the visuals coming in from on ground as well, Payal. Huge challenge on ground to ensure or to try to race against time to see if you can find any survivors.
Absolutely. Like I said, that no country can ever be prepared for a tragedy like this, while all hands on the deck approach, and therefore the Civil Aviation Ministry has put all the resources together. The civil administration has also put in all these efforts together. Appeal is being made to all the citizens saying that do not rush to the airport or do not crowd around these areas. Make sure that we are able to get a green corridor in place should we need to rush somebody for medical emergency, given the fact that there are also the building on which the aircraft really fell also had some doctors who were housed over there.
Yes.
As well, so obviously the number of casualties are likely to go up. As far as Mr. Mohal is also concerned, it is pretty possible that he might just be on that flight with Union Home Minister Amit Shah. He's also Mr. Amit Shah's, MOS in the Ministry of Cooperation. So obviously he's been rushed. He was at the Civil Aviation Ministry just a short while ago. He's just been asked to rush from there immediately, along with all the officials as well. So obviously that is something which the government of India is looking to do to make sure that maximum efforts are there on ground.
Yeah. A high-level meeting has in fact been held at the Civil Aviation Ministry. Secretary and DGCA officials have attended. All of them have now been directed to move to Ahmedabad as well. Let me also go across to Mr. Sivaraman, who's formerly with the DGCA, joining us. Sir, your first thoughts on this massive tragedy. It seems like one of the worst airplane crashes, not just in India but worldwide as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, my condolences to all those people who have lost their lives, and I pray for the recovery of any injured in this crash. It is really surprising to me also because I have seen a couple of accidents in my career as DGCA, investigated some of them, and also seen other accidents outside India. This is really strange because the aircraft had taken off normally, and at 800 feet it started going down flat. Which means it had lost its lift. I mean, that's what I can guess only, because I am not an expert in this area, neither am I a great pilot or an engineer. But however, it seems after the first Mayday call, the pilot could not communicate with the ATC, which means a lot of things could have happened inside the aircraft, might have been filled with smoke, or the pilot would have been unconscious. Nobody knows what has happened. Because normally this is a very, very fine aircraft and very few crashes like this have taken place. And that too immediately after takeoff. Even if one engine had failed, the pilots are quite competent to handle it. And that is had taken off after 800 feet, he could have very well handled it. If both the engines had also failed, it would have been possible for him to land it. But quite possible that the plane did not have any lift at all for him to maneuver it to some space where he could have landed. One should not make any wild guesses. I am reasonably certain that how they would be able to recover the black box, the CVR, and moreover, this aircraft can transmit its engine parameters to the ground. And I am sure Air would have set up these facilities. Similarly, the DFTR, which records all the flight data, they could have also been transmitted to the ground. Because these facilities have been in existence for a very, very long time. And I am sure Air India would have seen to it that these facilities are available. And in this particular case, when I contrasted with the accident that took place of the Air India 320 in Bangalore, the authorities have acted very swiftly. And they have acted magnificently, I must say. All the required help has been rendered to the people there on ground. And also people have been moved very fast from the accident area. I only pray that at least some people come out alive from this accident, and I hope that the authorities will be able to find out what really went wrong. One should not miss any aspect of investigation, particularly in these very tense times. Because, I mean, I don't want to be very explicit on this matter, but every angle should be explored, and every possible agency should be involved in investigating this accident.
Sir, in your experience, what follows next as far as the investigation itself is concerned?
See, as far as investigation is concerned, earlier as DGCA, I used to conduct the investigation myself. Now they have got an investigation board, and I am sure accident investigation board, the DGCA authorities should be fully involved along with them, and they should not be excluded from it. The Federal Aviation Authority, they have got excellent facilities. They have investigated many, many accidents in the world. They should be involved. The engine manufacturer, particularly the GE, should be involved. The aircraft manufacturer, Boeing, all of them without hesitation should be part of the accident investigation. Because we must get to the truth of this entire thing.
Yes. No, absolutely. This is one of the worst crashes, especially given its nature as well. In aviation history, all around the world, there is much alarm. And condolences and thoughts are coming in from across the world. Captain Sam Thomas, former pilot, is also with us. Captain, your thoughts? Any thoughts on what you think could have gone wrong?
Good evening. I don't really want to hazard a guess as to what has actually happened. And while our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, what I'd like to say that with the limited evidence that we have, and we are seeing through the visuals that the aircraft has lost power on or rather is not generating lift enough, and that can only happen when both engines are not developing power. And the reason for that can only be found out once we have the DFDR data. And until then, it's in the realms of speculation, and we understand that people are interested in knowing exactly what has happened. To that extent, we can only say that the weather seems absolutely clear, and the reason for losing power on both engines is extremely rare. If you recollect, there was an incident on the Hudson where an A320 lost both its engines to bird hit, and a lot of people are drawing that comparisons. This airplane, the 787, is a much bigger airplane, and a few birds will not be able to cause problems to a single engine, or leave alone both engine catastrophic failure. So at the moment we have very, very sketchy details, and the Aircraft Accident Investigation Board would be in a much better position to bring out these details. And at the moment, the incoming details that we have is that both the engines did not develop sufficient power.
Yes, I'm going to come to you on that issue of how both engines can go out, because that's extremely rare. That doesn't really happen, and that is really raising alarm here. But we also have a video that has been shot by one of the passengers. I'm told a British passenger who was on board before the crash. Let's just play that out.
We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Goodbye.
Thank
10-hour flight back to England.
What's your biggest takeaway, Jamie?
We've done this already.
On a different thing.
All right. What's my biggest takeaway? I don't know.
Yeah, fascinating. Great. Thanks. Thanks for your contribution. Okay. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is don't lose your patience with your partner.
Yeah. You're already starting to. You've already snapped at me while we're having chai at the airport. You see, you've learnt nothing.
Going back happily calm. We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Goodbye. 10-hour flight back to England.
What's your biggest takeaway, Jamie?
We've done this already.
On a different thing.
All right. What's my biggest takeaway? I don't know.
Yeah, fascinating. Great. Thanks. Thanks for your contribution. Okay. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is don't lose your patience with your partner.
Yeah. You're already starting to. You've already snapped at me while we're having chai at the airport. You see, you've learnt nothing.
Going back happily calm. We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Well, that seems to be a video made by two passengers, British passengers, young men who were going back to England. They were happy about it, and just kind of points out the fickleness of life. Nobody could have really seen this coming. Captain Sam Thomas, former pilot, and Mr. Sivaraman, who is formerly with the DGCA, both on the show with us. I do thank you for your time. Captain Sam Thomas, I just want to take your thoughts once again, because our viewers would be curious to know, how can both engines go out? That seems to be the case here, given how quickly the flight crashed and the fact that the pilots didn't seem to be in any control. They didn't seem to have any communication left with the ATC. What can really cause this?
A variety of reasons can cause it, but in this particular case, what has happened, we would not know until we have the details. Now, you asked of both engine failures. It has happened just short of London Heathrow once with a 777, and that was due to fuel starvation. Now, if both the engines do not get adequate fuel, it could result in both the engines flaming out. Now, but that is a very rare scenario. And in this particular case, we don't know how both the engines have failed, or indeed, we are speculating this from the visuals that we have. So it's evident to a certain extent that there is a loss of thrust on both engines, but we would not be absolutely sure on that till such time that the DFDR shows us the results.
I want to ask Mr. Sivaraman also, how long do you think an investigation into a crash like this will take? All right, I think I've lost Mr. Sivaraman. Captain Sam Thomas, do you want to just take this question? How long do you think an investigation of a crash of this nature may take? How quickly can we get to the bottom of what happened?
The DGCA would allocate this investigation to the Air Accident Investigation Board, AAIB, and they would put out a preliminary report in about 30 days, and thereafter, based on whatever information they are able to gather from the engine manufacturer, from the OEM, that's Boeing, and may take assistance of other investigative agencies, because not very many qualified investigators are there in India, and it should take about a year. That's my experience with air accident investigation, and it generally takes about a year at least.
Currently, of course, rescue operations are the chief priority, and all of the ministries concerned, including the Home Ministry and the Civil Aviation Ministry, are concerned only with that. Those are hospital visuals also coming in. There seem to be some who are injured, but we're unsure whether they are passengers who have been brought in an injured situation, or these are people who were in the buildings surrounding where the crash took place. Because the unfortunate part is, Captain Thomas, is that this flight actually crashed into buildings, and unfortunately we're getting updates that the buildings that it crashed into had MBBS doctors, resident doctors, etc. staying in that hostel.
Very tragic, very tragic. It does happen that when an airplane crashes and in a thickly populated area, there would be collateral damage on ground as well. It's very unfortunate, and unfortunately that is the nature of the beast, and very little we can do about it except extend the hospital services to the injured and minimize whatever damage that has already occurred by providing proper medical assistance timely.
The area around the airport perimeter was, as the visuals themselves show, densely populated. Clearly there were some facilities there as well.
A very unfortunate happenstance. Not very usual, is it?
No, it's a very sad day for aviation in general and Air India in particular, and Indian aviation. My heart goes out to many of my former colleagues who've probably on that aircraft as well as in the company. Prayers and thoughts with them. Very tragic, and it's pretty certain, or it appears to be, that either the aircraft had major engine failure, whether it's through ingestion of birds or just stalling. But you can see loss of power and the aircraft dropping, like Devesh was saying earlier. The 787 is one of the most sturdy aircraft which has not had any fatalities or any accidents like this so far in its history. This aircraft is only 11 and a half years old. So again, a very new aircraft. Like he said also, that Air India aircrafts are very well maintained engineering wise. So that should not have been a problem. The pilots were very well experienced, more than 10,000 hours between them. So, really one is left scratching his head trying to figure out what could have been at the bottom of these two engines failing and the aircraft sinking. Also, it's rammed into a building which is a medical college and a medical college hostel. It was afternoon time, and we believe, the lunch mess must have been full of kids who were studying in that hostel. So I worry about what may have happened over there. Part of the aircraft tail seems to have, been lodged on the roof of that building, and the rest has collapsed beyond that. it's a very, very grim situation. We can see, we've already heard from sources in Ahmedabad that, almost 40 bodies have been recovered. We don't know what's happening so far. I think 11 or 12 were taken to hospital. Whether they have survived or not, we're not certain. We're still in the realm of speculation as far as that is concerned. But it's a black day for aviation in India and the world over, really.
Mr. Lezar, from what we gleaned from our short conversation with Mr. Agarwal was that the Dreamliner can fly also on just one engine. So this sort of adds another layer to the fact that there was this catastrophic failure of lift. I don't know if it was engine induced, and neither did he want to actually hazard that guess, but what do you think really happened here? A Mayday call was issued, the landing gear hasn't been retracted, so it's very, very early in the flight. How would something like this anomaly gone undetected? Is it possible? Would checks have been, are checks conducted before a flight takes off for a long haul? What kind of checks are they? Can you just walk us through some of the preparatory procedures?
Well, there's no question about checks. Checks are taken whether it's a long haul or a short haul. There are detailed checks that go on by the ground engineers as well as the pilot himself. Either the first officer or the PIC does a walk around. Typically it's the first officer, they check. Systems are checked, so there's absolutely no question of not having been checked. You're right, so is Devesh, that the one engine could have helped it, but obviously it's clear from images. We don't have any data. We know that it took off 175 knots was the speed. We know it was a hot day, so the profile of the weather profile, takeoff profile must have been built according to that. Also very heavy aircraft, 240 passengers plus baggage plus fuel for a long haul flight to London. So it's not exactly light. Possibility of perhaps both engines having stalled is all I can say, because there's absolutely zero lift. When you look at the image that you're playing on your screen right now, it shows that the aircraft has struggled to lift off and is just not climbing. There's zero climb. And rightly, as you mentioned, the pilot did issue a Mayday call, which the DGCA itself has reflected in its press statement. And before the ATC could respond, it just hit the building and went up in a ball of flames. He couldn't direct the aircraft anywhere, could not maneuver it to safety.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lezar, the GE engine, the Gen X series of GE engines are known to be very reliable.
Very reliable. They are very reliable and very, very powerful engines. So I'm only speculating that there were birds that bird hit that happened. That's about it. I can't think of anything else. This was a major ingestion or something that caused both engines to stall. Because even in the videos that I've seen, I've not really heard the engines, the togas being introduced or the power of the engines coming into force. So I really can't tell. From this distance, sitting far away as we are, and we really is not fair to speculate beyond that.
True. A bird hit, could it result in this kind of an incident?
Multiple bird hits could stall the engine. It's about stalling the engine, and this is the most critical phase of flight, takeoff. As you all know, landing and takeoff are the most critical, but takeoff is particularly critical because you could lose complete power as we see as happened here. And the fact that he issued a Mayday call, just pushes us towards that conclusion, unless there was catastrophic failure in both engines that we do not know about as yet.
Mr. Lezar, we were told that the Boeing could actually fly on one engine also, in case there was a bird hit to one. In this early period of flight, is that possible?
Well, I don't know if one engine would be able to lift an aircraft with, at this stage of flight with all that load. But be that as it may, it's pretty clear. You can't see the aircraft bank to either side. It's obvious that there seems to be total loss of power in this aircraft. Not from one, possibly both engines. That's what I can surmise from the videos and the data that we've received so far.
Yeah, well, the data, of course, at this instance is very, very sketchy, viewers. We're only getting information that we're reeling, that has been confirmed and put out by the authorities in question, because doing anything else would be to hazard misinformation, which is not our intention at all. But the pictures are now quite clear. There are first responders on the scene, a building, as you can see on the right, there's a lot of smoke emanating from that building. Clearly it's the ATF that is cloaked to that building. Whether there have been people inside that building that have also been affected, we don't know. We have seen bodies and being pulled out of the wreckage. We also have seen people the injured rather, being wheeled into hospital. Obviously, we can't tell you if those are passengers or if there were people on the ground, but the scenes are extremely overwhelming. Let's go straight across to the MOS of Civil Aviation, who has spoken to our network. Let's play that out.
सर, हमसे बात करने के लिए शुक्रिया। मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि अभी फिलहाल वहां की स्थिति क्या है, किस तरीके से सरकार जो है वो मदद कर रही है।
जी, अभी तो वहाँ की जो गवर्नमेंट है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारे अधिकारी संपर्क में है। राहत बचाव का कार्य भी शुरू हो गया है
जी, और
हम भी घटनास्थल पे पहुंच रहे हैं। मैं भी थोड़ी देर में वहाँ पे पहुंचूंगा। माननीय HM सर, देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई भी वहाँ पे पहुंच रहे हैं। तो अभी सभी स्तर पे कार्रवाई शुरू है, काम शुरू है।
और सर, प्राइमरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में क्या कुछ सामने आया है कि एग्जैक्टली रीजन क्या था?
नहीं, अभी तक तो जांच चल रही है। अभी कुछ हम इस पे बात करना उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन उसकी जांच चल रही है। मैंने अभी भी मिनिस्ट्री में सभी वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों के साथ मैंने मीटिंग भी करी है, लेकिन उसका सामने आएगा एक्चुअली रीजन क्या है, वो सामने भी आएगा। लेकिन अब तो पहला काम हमारा है कि वहाँ के राहत बचाव का कार्य में हमें ध्यान देना है, पहले वो तो काम करना पड़ेगा।
मोदी जी, मुझे ये जानना है कि आंकड़े जो है कैजुअलिटी हो या फिर इंजर्ड हो, उनके अलग अलग आ रहे हैं क्या आपकी तरफ से?
नहीं, अभी तो कुल 242 लोग थे जी। 230 उसमें यात्री थे, 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो अभी तक तो कैजुअलिटी आ रही है सामने। अभी तक कोई ऑफिशियली कैजुअलिटी हम नहीं बोल रहे हैं, सभी जांच भी चल रही है। पहले तो राहत बचाव का काम शुरू है, बाद में उस पर।
ये जो फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है वो रेसिडेंशियल एरिया में हुआ है, तो क्या वहां पे लोग कितने इंजर्ड हुए या वहां की कैजुअलिटी का कुछ आंकड़ा?
वही तो मैंने अभी कहा कि राज्य सरकार के संपर्क में हमारी सभी टीम है वहां पे। तो अभी सामने नहीं आ रहा है कि, लेकिन वहां भी राहत बचाव का कार्य जो शुरू है उसमें पहले तो इन लोगों को बाहर निकालना है। इनको इमीडिएटली वहां पे मेडिकल इमरजेंसी को पहले उनको वहां पे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करना है, मदद करना है।
I'm also joined by Captain Kishore Chinta, who is the Chief Pilot of Sirius India Airlines Private Limited. Thanks a lot, Captain Kishore, for joining us. I want to understand from you first, from what we know, within a minute or so of takeoff, this plane has crashed, and it has crashed in a scenario where it seems the pilots were not in control at all. They had already issued a Mayday call, and they actually crashed into a building. What do you make of what could have happened?
Ma'am, I've seen the videos. The 787 has 70,000 on each engine. For an airplane like a 787 to go down in a controlled manner like that, either they've lost both the engines, and Ahmedabad per se always has a lot of birds and vultures over there, up to almost 3,000 feet. It's speculation as of now. That either both the engines have to have had some kind of bird ingestion or a compressor stall or something like that for the engines to lose power. Otherwise, with just one engine, also the aircraft can climb out at 400 to 500 feet per minute for a aircraft of that size.
I just want to understand from you, these bird ingestion issues that you're talking about, how frequent are they?
Bird ingestion are infrequent, but there is always that risk, especially in airfields like Ahmedabad and Baroda and some other airfields. Ahmedabad has historically had bird activity in and around the airfield. So I am not saying that it could have been a boarded, but the fact that the pilots gave a mayday and we see the aircraft climb to max altitude on flight radar close to 625 feet, which would be about 425 feet off the ground. The airfield elevation is about 200 at Ahmedabad. So they did climb to 425 feet. On the aircraft, they could have engaged autopilot, but it appears to be that they've lost power in both the engines for the aeroplane to have come down in a controlled manner like that.
Yes. And because most experts like yourself are suggesting that even loss of one engine should not lead to a crash like this, I want to understand from you, if this was, let's say, a bird-related incident, can it take off both? Can it take out both engines like this so quickly after takeoff, within a minute or so?
It is possible, ma'am. Like the United aircraft where Captain Sully Slumberger, went down into the Hudson. It is possible for both the engines to get affected by birds.
Okay, and looks like there would have been very little reaction time to control anything. What do you make of the situation the pilots would have faced if this, let's say, both engines went out so quickly after takeoff?
The pilots did a fabulous job keeping the wings level to minimize any kind of damage, and the aircraft's gone down in a controlled manner. They probably have done everything possible which they have been trained for a situation like this. But the rest we'll only come to know once more specifics come out from the flight data recorder and cockpit voice record.
I just want to understand from you also, because you are an expert in this field. Apart from a bird hit, what else can lead to a crash like this so soon after takeoff, where the speculation is that not just one but both engines went out? What else is a plausible reason?
I don't see another plausible reasons, ma'am. This has to be a loss of both the engines for the aircraft of the magnitude of 787 to go down in this manner. And this is the world's first ever Boeing 787 crash. So that's the track record of this aeroplane. And the pilots are highly experienced, well trained. So the only probable cause would be loss of power on both the engines, just at the time they were getting airborne.
And that's extremely rare, isn't it?
It's probably 1 in a million kind of scenario. There's probably nothing anyone could have done in this case. If there was no obstacles immediately after takeoff, probably they could have, glided down onto the ground to as minimal damage as possible. But with buildings over there, they seem to have landed on top of one of the under construction buildings. We do not know the damage or the loss of lives on ground, but more details will be coming out as and when the DGCA Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau brings out details.
Just stay with me. Speaking of those buildings that this plane has crashed into, and I'm sure the pilots would have tried to avoid as much as possible, but it looks like they really couldn't avoid crashing into a building. We have information that the flight has crashed into BJMC, which is a hostel where many MBBS students stay. And these are some visuals also that we were running earlier of the hostel, including the canteen, etc., where there is damage because of the impact of this airline crash. And we don't quite yet know what the damage could be as far as students there in the building is concerned. But certainly news is coming in that some of them have been injured, and we hope that they get quick treatment. Praful Patel, former aviation minister, is also joining us over the phone line. Mr. Patel, thanks a lot for your time. Extremely sorry scenes that are coming in from Ahmedabad, and of course news of heavy casualties as well.
Very saddened to hear and very distressed at the same time. One of the biggest tragedies in our country, and unfortunately whatever visuals we are able to see on TV, that's all information we have. But considering that, today's aircraft are very sophisticated, very technically advanced, to see a situation like this, unless we know the full details, will be very difficult to comment on that. But at the same time, whatever visuals we see on TV, our hearts go out to the passengers and their families. We don't know what is the fate of many, so I only pray and hope that most people survive this horrific crash.
Yes, the pilots were extremely proficient. Praful Patel, there are 133 casualties that we are getting latest updates on. We are hoping that some rescue operations are able to find some injured who can receive some treatment. But many international passengers on board as well, and many countries on alert now, including UK. We are told that as many as 50 plus passengers were from UK. We are also told that former Gujarat Chief Minister Mr. Rupani was on board.
Well, I've seen Mr. Rupani's name on television, and having been a person who's known him for many years, I only hope and pray that he is well. But at this moment, there is no information about any of the passengers. And of course, as you said, there are many passengers of different nationalities, mostly UK, besides Indians. And I think we really feel very sad, because at the same time, I would like to repeat that today's aircraft are very, very sophisticated. The pilots, especially who fly 787 Dreamliner, are obviously very well trained, and they are very senior commanders. And they've gone through many hours and hours of flying, and they would have obviously, it seems to me, whatever little I can make out from that the plane was on climb mode, and suddenly it's lost power or something else has happened, or maybe it was struggling at the time of takeoff. These are all very speculative things. But one thing is certain, if the pilot gave a Mayday call, we don't know the exact time of when he gave the Mayday call. Was it just immediately on climb, or
soon after
was
takeoff,
he rolling?
sir. In fact, within a few minutes, it seems this flight has crashed. It had barely reached the height of 700 feet.
This flight couldn't have flown more than 60 seconds because of the very fact that it's just 825 feet into the air, which is virtually nothing. It just would not take more than 60 seconds. So it is very intriguing because of the, first, as I said, the aircraft itself has many backup systems. These are, very fly-worthy, very safe aircraft, and 787s are flying all over the world. In fact, I would be surprised to see that probably this may be the first major incident with a 787.
Yes, actually we have been confirmed, sir, that as far as the 787 Dreamliner is concerned, this is the first major such incident that has come to light. Boeing has had some issues with grounding and all. There have been investigations whether they have, not done enough as far as maintenance and certain other activities on planes are concerned. But this certainly is the major crash of its first of its kind when it comes to a 787 Dreamliner.
Well, absolutely. A 787 Dreamliner, as I said, is being flown by most airlines of the world. And it's a very, I would say, a workhorse. It's a good aircraft. And in this case, it's flown from Delhi to Ahmedabad. So obviously it was absolutely flyworthy. Otherwise, no aircraft takes off. And pilots also, before they take off, they go through all the checks. And if they find anything missing, and especially if they are on a long haul flight like London, they would be absolutely very careful to see all parameters are fine before they would take off. So obviously something has gone wrong after they started their roll on the runway for takeoff. And in between that and the climb, those 60 seconds have been, I'm sure, very, very the reason for whatever has happened.
I do thank you for joining us, Praful Patel, the ex-aviation minister. Also reading out what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just put out. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened us. It is heartbreaking beyond words. In this sad hour, my thoughts are with everyone affected by it. Have been in touch with ministers and authorities who are working to assist those affected. We also know that Home Minister Amit Shah is travelling to Ahmedabad. My colleague Payal Mehta is also joining us with more on this. Payal, words coming in from Narendra Modi as well. Everybody offering, of course, their deepest thoughts to those who have been affected, including, of course, the families. Already 133 have been confirmed dead.
Yes, it is, of course, heartbreaking beyond words. That's what the Prime Minister really said. And this has happened in his hometown, which is in Ahmedabad. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened everyone. He has been in touch with the ministers and the authorities who are working to assist those who are affected. He has already spoken to Bhupendra Patel, the Gujarat Chief Minister, already spoken and asked Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister, to rush as well, and constantly been in touch with Amit Shah, another union minister in his government, the Home Minister, another son of the soil. So they've all been rushed. Maximum help needs to be assured is what the Prime Minister has also indicated in as many words as well. But a real tragedy coming to the fore as well. Many people have been feared dead in this, in this ghastly crash that we've really seen. Of course, the investigation will follow soon as possible is what the government is assured. But it's a very heartbreaking moment because many citizens on board Shivani were not just Indian nationals, but foreign nationals as well. But the government of the day has assured that they will get to the bottom of this and understand why this really occurred. But like I said, the Prime Minister joining the nation in expressing his condolences to what has really happened and to the loved ones.
One of the biggest aviation crashes in Indian history, and of course certainly the first concerning a Dreamliner. I want to go across to Rajesh Patani, who's an eyewitness to what happened. Rajesh जी, आपने क्या देखा जब ये क्रैश हुआ? आपने क्या देखा? आपको क्या दिखा? ये बताइए। राजेश जी, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? आप क्रैश के वक्त कहाँ थे? आपने क्या देखा? ये बताइए। Let's try and reconnect. We're trying to get you some more eyewitness accounts, but of course visuals of the crash are on screen, and they show that the flight had barely taken off. Within less than a minute, of course, this flight has crashed. It seems the pilots have lost all control because they couldn't even deviate the flight from a what seems to be a residential area. There was, in fact, a MBBS students' hostel that has come into the path of this crashing airline, and the aircraft burst into flames immediately upon impact. Those visuals have also been caught by those who were living in the vicinity of the Ahmedabad airport. Captain Kishore Chinta continues to be with us. Captain, I want to understand from you, in such a short span of time, if both engines are lost, how much can captains do? How much can the pilots and the crew do in such a situation? What can they do?
There's not much the pilots can do other than look for an area where they can crash land the aircraft in the safest possible manner. So in this case, they barely had any height in hand to change the direction of the aircraft anywhere. See, the most prudent thing they could have done was to keep the wings level and glide into a path which is most safe, which would minimize casualties on impact with the ground, rather than having bank on, wherein the risk of the aircraft cartwheeling and more damage and more casualties. So the pilots probably did the most prudent thing, having probably lost power.
Okay, and how does this loss of power really happen? What causes it?
Loss of power could be either due to bird ingestion, the engine compressors stalling and not producing any more thrust. It would be really unlikely for engines of such magnitude and to lose power for any other reason for a technical defect just after takeoff. It's unheard of. It's those engines with 70,000.
Aviation Ministry have put out a medical emergency helpline and a control room helpline. It's 0793508211. That number will flash as it is right now under our screen. You can see it. You can call in if you have apprehensions that some of your relatives or others that you know might actually be in harm's way. I want very quickly to give you a quick overview, viewers, as we continue our coverage. The RPF disaster management team, headed by ASC and ADI, plus 6 staff, along with hospital team, 6 doctors, 20 staff and 7 ambulance, rendering all possible help in rescue operations in the tragic Air India flight crash at Ahmedabad. We don't still know if there have been any survivors. We are gleaning through data that is coming in through the hospitals to figure that one out, but quite clearly that's the timeline to the right of your screens. At 1:39 it takes off. Within 60 seconds it has a catastrophic loss of lift. The plane goes down, goes crashing into a building which was attached to a hospital, education institution, goes straight into that building. The building itself is covered by ATF. The plane was loaded with ATF because, as you know, it was taking off to travel to Gatwick Airport in London, or the extremities of London. The MEA has reacted and said that details will be shared with governments of foreign countries, because there were a number of citizens from other nations on board this international flight. Air India chairman N. Chandrasekaran is likely to reach Ahmedabad tonight. That's what we're being told. Large number of residents, we're being told, are also feared dead after the aircraft crashed into the Atulyam super speciality doctor's residence. At the time of the incident, around 200 people were residing in the building, the 94 flats there, and you can see the absolutely charred super frame of that building after the plane dived into it, completely losing control. There was a Mayday call that was issued by the pilots before the ATC could even sort of respond. The plane went down in that ball of fire. We're also being told that the Ahmedabad airport that had been shut down has now been reopened, and flight safety protocols are being followed with utmost care. There are also directions that have gone out to prevent people when they take off, take photographs, so you won't be allowed to do all of that, because clearly the flight path. Let me go across to Payal for more updates. We're told that Union Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah will be landing there forthwith. Payal, what are the updates?
As far as the Ahmedabad airport is concerned, Rahul, is one of the busiest airports in Gujarat, because not only does it have so many domestic flights coming, it's a busy destination as far as businesses are concerned, but it also has a lot of international connectivity as well. But that airport has been opened up, in a calibrated manner, so passengers have been requested that they should check the timings of the flight, etc., and only then move to the airport. As far as the Union Home Minister is concerned, he is expected to reach there in some time, and the Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu is also expected to reach anywhere between 5:30 and 6 p.m. And just a short while ago, Muralidhar Mohal, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, along with all the DGC officials, along with the Civil Aviation Secretary Mrs. Samir Sinha, they are all on board, so they should also be landing in Ahmedabad in a couple of hours as well. And this flight of happiness and hope, has turned into a flight of tragedy for so many people, who were looking to go back to their homes, especially the foreign nationals, and to many as well. So, our hearts really go out to these people. But, like I said, the government of the day has said that they'll get to the bottom of this, and nobody who is involved with any negligence whatsoever will be spared, is what we're given to understand. But yes, flights are going to be resuming in a calibrated manner, and therefore all kind of numbers, whether it's medical emergency numbers or numbers concerning finding the loved ones even at hospitals, etc., have been put out by the civil administration. Bhupendra Patel, the Chief Minister, was at the civil hospital just a short while ago. So all hands on the deck approach, Rahul.
Absolutely. There are also more updates that are coming in, viewers, as we scroll through the news updates that are coming up on my screen here. We're also being told that the Air India has called upon the authorities to investigate and ensure that all examinations forensic examinations of the crash site, etc., are conducted utmost. We're also being told that Air India management officials have held meetings with DGCA staff. Air India has been asked to submit the health report of all their aircrafts. There are also some pictures that make the heart really weak coming in from inside the mess of the hostel where the plane crashed. Devastating scenes there. One just hopes that the casualty figures are not as high as what appears from the scene of devastation. We're being told that former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Rupani, was on board. We don't still know whether he has survived this or he's injured. We have no updates really on his well-being, but he was a former Chief Minister of Gujarat from 2016 to 2021, the state president of Gujarat. When his name was declared as the Chief Minister, he took over from Anandiben Patel, Miss Anandiben Patel, former MP from the Rajya Sabha and a two-time MLA, hailed from Rajkot West, came from an influential Jain community. He didn't fight the 2022 Assembly poll, citing his wish to step back from electoral politics. He was currently in charge of Punjab for the BJP and was on his way to England and was aboard that flight. There are pictures also coming in of the ill-fated crew of this flight, and we are told that there were at least 10 crew members on board this flight from different parts of the country. Many leaders, many countries are extending commiserations, shock at the events. Remember, this is the first time in recorded history that the Dreamliner has gone down. Very reliable aircraft. Many people are convinced that this aircraft could not have suffered the failures that are being attributed to it. But viewers, as we know, one can't give in to speculation. This is an extremely sensitive situation right now, and therefore one cannot hazard any information on what could have gone wrong in a speculative way. We're being told now, no survivors of this crash, but we are going to not take that at face value till the authorities come out and give us some sort of a confirmation. But Payal, it does seem that the outlook is not good. Okay, we don't have Payal. We're going to go back to Payal in just a few moments. But hotline numbers have been set up for people to check in and find out on the state of affairs and, of course, on their own relatives. We are being told that there were 53 British nationals, 7 Portuguese and 1 Canadian on board this Air India flight. 169 Indian nationals were on board. It was a flight that was almost full, Ahmedabad, London flight, and at this time of the year, viewers, there is huge traffic between the two destinations, given the fact that this is a peak holiday season. I want to go straight across to Anvit. Anvit, a lot of people heading out to London on this particular flight. We're getting some details. We're being told unofficially that the possibility of survivors is very slim. What's the update that you're getting?
Yeah, certainly, you see, Rahul, that toll is what we are being unofficially confirmed by the sources on ground. It is being said that it has already been counted up to 150, and it certainly is unfortunately expected to only rise from here, because the kind of incident it was, and we initially also saw how the plane went up in flames. It clearly was indicative of the fact that the number of casualties and fatalities would certainly be high. Not just those in the plane, but also on ground. The collateral damage that it has caused, because it was a heavily residential area, and the building in which the plane had crashed, which was the doctor's hostel, that also, from there also, a number of occupants had to be rushed to medical facilities, and deaths have been reported from there as well. So ground damage certainly is there, but all what we are being told by the officials who are in this rescue operation, that number of survivors is really bleak, as what we are getting from the ground. Also, because the incident that this is, and what we are being told by the experts, is that the two major chances that this incident took place, one is dual engine failure, which could be, one reason could be power outage, or another reason could also be bird ingestion. But it is also being said that it's very unlikely that bird ingestion would cause both engines to go down. Another reason what we're learning is could be control jamming, which is also a subject matter of investigation, and the AIB will now take over the investigation as their teams are already on ground, and investigation in this manner will also be done. But what we are learning from the ground is yes, that the fatalities have increased to more than 150, and chances of any survivors are really, really bleak, which is unfortunate.
Well, that is very, very sad news if true. We're going to hold back on giving you those numbers because we don't have confirmation from official sources, and CNN News 18 will not report casualty figures, even speculate on casualty figures, given the fact that this would be extremely traumatic. That's the moment of crash, viewers. You can see that the plane lost its ability to lift off. Even its, as you can see, landing gear had not been retracted. So, moment the plane takes off, it presumably experienced a catastrophic loss of lift, as some of our experts have told us. The pilot had very little time to react, about a minute, in which a Mayday call was issued to the ATC. The ATC responded to the Mayday call, got no response, looked out and saw a ball of flames engulfing the skyline. And a minute after crash it was, because as you know, our planes do travel at a particular speed, therefore it becomes easy to assess the length that they would have traversed and therefore back calculate the time that they would have spent on air, in air that is. And you can see that ball of flames going up, lighting up the sky and completely overshadowing the afterground, and that is because this plane was laden with ATF. It had just been refueled. It's taking off. It had come in from Delhi, we are told, landed in Ahmedabad, was obviously surveilled for and examined for any technical issues, maintenance, etc. The plane then crashes into a building. The building is part of a medical establishment, and the exact building it crashes into is a canteen. And lunch hour was on, it was in the middle of lunch hour, and parts of the fuselage and debris from the plane lying, littering this particular building. And you can see that the tail section of this building is sticking out. Tail section of the plane is sticking out of the building, and inside we're told there were several doctors who were undergoing training, and those people have been injured. Some of them might not have made it out. There are, of course, more visuals of the debris on fire in the immediate aftermath. You can see the ground scorched, trees, just about anything within the perimeter of the crash site reduced to ash, carbon. You can see those pictures. Part of the building also engulfed in ATF, singed and covered in soot. Complete devastation. All these pictures coming in, obviously an attempt being made to douse the fire, but it's a bit too late. All of these are the buildings next to the wreckage near the plane crash site. A large number of parts of the plane strewn all over the place, and that's the frontage of this building, which has been reduced to ash. It's covered in soot because, as I told you, the plane was laden with ATF, and you can see other remnants of this plane, electronic parts, etc., strewn all over the place. There is some piece of luggage that might have survived, but most of this particular craft consumed completely, and that's the debris that is being removed, is salvaged. Obviously, there would be a desperate search for the black box, because that needs to be taken and examined to determine what could have gone wrong. Right now, no use speculating on it beyond the fact that the plane suffered a catastrophic loss of lift. Now, what that was due to, we don't know. Was it engine failure? Was it a bird hit? We have no clue. And these are survivors who are being rushed to hospitals. We don't quite know if these are passengers or if these were people on the ground or they were the young doctors. Let's go back to Anvit. Anvit, these people who are being wheeled into the hospital, do we have any clarity on who they are? What's the nature of their injuries, etc.? Okay, we don't quite have him, but there is a lot of grief, a lot of shock on the ground, and you can see that being reflected on the faces of some of those people who were witnesses. It must have been very, very traumatic, not just for those who came and bid their loved ones farewell, but also those in England who were expecting their loved ones to land in the next 11 hours or so. These scenes, viewers, are extremely unfortunate. This particular brand of aircraft, the Dreamliner, has not in its history suffered a crash. And we can tell you that Boeing shares are crashing right now across the globe because, once again, there are questions being asked of the company. Boeing has had its issues. It was caught up in a lot of issues related to its operations, etc. There have been many strikes within Boeing, talking about corners being cut, etc., etc. I don't want to go there because that's a whole different can of worms, might even be unrelated totally to the aircraft they produce, because the aircraft has performed extremely well, known for being very, very dependable and extremely efficient, and therefore a large number of these prototypes were sold. More than 1,000 have been sold since the Dreamliner, this particular Dreamliner, was brought into service and incepted. And inceptualized. So there you have it, viewers. These are the pictures coming from all the parts of the city. Ahmedabad right now is caught in the grip of this crisis, and heart goes out to those who were expecting or are expecting the kith and the kin of these passengers. We're expecting for them to have a safe flight. Let me go across to Anvit. Anvit, what is the latest coming in on perhaps the preliminary estimations as to what might have gone wrong? Any more details about the circumstances under which this flight took off? Anvit, can you hear me? Okay, Anvit, can you hear me? Are you there with us? Flight A1, AI-171 Ahmedabad to London, reportedly carrying 242 passengers. Troops of 100 RAF and GCCRPF Gandhinagar involved in rescue operations. More details, of course, waited on casualty figures, but we're told that the prognosis is not too bright, that many people would have perished in this. The details, of course, to the left of your screens. Anvit, if you're there, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
What are the details we have? We know for sure that the Dreamliner, this particular make of the Dreamliner, has never had a crash. And it's the first crash anywhere in the world of a Dreamliner, of 787 Dreamliner. It had a call sign VTA and B, was the 26th to have been purchased by Air India. These are numbers, of course. Data don't tell the entire story. What are you learning from your sources?
Certainly, see, like you rightly pointed out, that Dreamliner and Boeing 787s do not have a history of such incidents, and since their introduction in probably 2011, this is the first Boeing 787 Dreamliner that is reportedly crashed or met with a mishap that we are reporting on. And if we talk about the situation on ground, visuals are really scary. Death toll has already crossed what unofficial figures are around 150. And the sources that are on ground are reporting that it is likely to grow because the kind of incident it was, and how we have the visuals we've been playing out for our audiences, that how the plane as it crashed, it went up in flames, and the chances of survival of any passenger that was on board are bleak, is what the officials are saying. However, it has not been officially confirmed that all on board are dead. It's not confirmed yet. Some have been rushed to medical facilities. It is awaited to know that if they will be recuperated from the condition they were recovered in or not. Also, other than those who were on board, 242, including crew and captain, other than that, the building in which the plane crashed, it also had a number of occupants, and more than 50 of them had to be rushed to medical facilities. There could be, certainly there is chances of survivors because the plane crashed over that building, and there could be survivors in that, but yes, certain deaths are also being reported from there. Amidst all this, Ahmedabad airport has also put out a tweet saying that the airport is now operational. It had been initially shut following the incident. The airport had been shut for operations, and now it has been opened for operations also. If we talk about the details of the incident that took place, the initial details that we had got, revisiting those details, the flight had taken off at 1:39 from Ahmedabad. It was bound for Gatwick. near London, and the accident took place immediately, just right 8 to 10 minutes after the takeoff.
We are told actually it took place within 60 seconds, actually, a minute and a half. It wasn't 8 to 10 minutes. It was just within a minute. So I just want to quickly come in there. Anvit, just stay on with me. I have some reactions to play out. MLA Darshana Vaghela said that, quote, I was in my office nearby when the plane crashed and there was a loud thud. The flats of the doctors have been damaged. The rescue operation will continue, unquote. This is ANI quoting her. ANI also put out the reaction of an individual. He said, and I quote, my son had gone to the hostel during lunch break and the plane crashed there. My son is safe and I have spoken to him. He jumped from the second floor, so he suffered some injuries, says Ramila, who reached the civil hospital in Ahmedabad. So clearly a parent, very worried parent. Now, Anvit, what about those people who found themselves on the ground but in the direct line of the crashed plane?
See, the incident was completely unforeseen, and when this happened, it certainly raised panic among those who were on ground. Some people had caught this incident on their phones, and they have recorded how the plane went down and the flight path as it was declining on its flight path. That has been recorded. Some videos we have played also on screen. But yes, there certainly was panic when visuals were coming on from on ground. We also saw how locals had gathered, the hundreds of people had gathered at the crash site, which also was another challenge for the first responders, be it the police, the firefighters, disaster management authorities, or the paramedics and ambulances. That also was a challenge, and many people had gathered,
Okay.
but that is also...
Anvit, just hold your thoughts. That is the Gujarat Chief Minister, who has just emerged from the hospital after visiting those that were taken there. And we showed you pictures of people being wheeled into hospital about an hour and a half back. One just hopes that the prognosis from the hospital is not as full of foreboding as what we're being told by our sources. And on the right, you can see that's the mess that has been reduced to ashes there. Parts of the plane, this is the tail of the plane crashing into the roof section of this cafe, bringing the roof down. An eyewitness has been quoted as having saying that after my office 200 meters from here, as soon as I stepped out of the office, I heard a very loud noise and smoke filled the area. Suddenly a commotion broke out here, and then we saw that this incident had occurred. When I reached the spot, I saw debris scattered here. There was a fire and smoke was billowing here. Nothing was visible. We then came to know that the wings of the aircraft fell here and that an aircraft crashed. We don't know about the casualties, but there is a building here where doctors reside. And that's the building that we were talking about, viewers, out of which is sticking out the tail of the plane in a rather ominous way. Now let's play out some eyewitness depositions.
यहीं मेरे ऑफिस में बैठी थी, जैसा धड़ाका हुआ मैं वहाँ ऑफिस से वहाँ गई। बहुत बड़ा प्लेन क्रैश हुआ था, तो बहुत धुआं और आग लगी थी। जो डॉक्टर्स के फ्लैट थे उनको बहुत डैमेज हुए हैं, और उसमें से कितने डॉक्टरों को हमने निकाला है, लोकल कार्यकर्ता और सब मिलके। बाद में जो प्लेन में से निकाले हैं वो लोग भी बहुत
बड़ी दुखद दुर्घटना,
बहुत
कितने लोगों की मौत, कुछ
अभी कोई अंदाजा नहीं लग रहा है। रहने वालों को भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ है। हमारी बहन जा रही थी लंदन, 1 बजे जा रही थी, 1:10 की फ्लाइट थी और जा रही थी लंदन। लंदन जाने से पहले ही क्रैश हो गया प्लेन।
मेरी सारी था वो अमृतसर थी और लंदन जा रही थी।
हाँ, फिर
बस 1 घंटे में समाचार आ गया तो प्लेन क्रैश हो गया है, इसलिए मैं वापस अहमदाबाद से बाहर निकल गया था, तो वापस आए सील में आ गया। अभी कुछ भी समाचार नहीं मिला है।
यहाँ पे जो ऑफिस से बाहर निकला तो मैंने देखा कि आवाज़, जोर से आवाज़ आया विंग्स का, फिर पूरा धुआं भर गया। लोग यहाँ से भगदड़ मची, उसके बाद आके देख रहे थे ये हादसा की स्थिति।
अच्छा, तो आप यहाँ पर पहले आए तो आपने क्या देखा?
आने के बाद देखा कि पूरा मलबा बिखरा हुआ, आग लगी है, पूरा धुआं गुब्बारा है, कुछ भी दिखाई नहीं दे रहा, समझ में नहीं आ पा रहा था क्या है। हाँ, उसके बाद पता चला कि ये विंग्स गिरा हुआ है, फ्लाइट वो किया, और फिर प्रशासन ने चारों तरफ से घेर लिया।
कितने बजे हुआ तकरीबन ये हादसा, कुछ समय बता?
लगभग 45 मिनट पहले हादसा हुआ।
Because everyone expressing shock and pretty much confirming the sequence of events there. The plane takes off within a minute. It's down. It crashes into a building that houses a number of doctors because it is part of a medical establishment. In fact, the building was the cafeteria. You can see the pictures on the left of the plane, tail of the plane that is sticking out of the top of that building, the roof section of the building. Below, those are the pictures from within the building. A lot of material there reduced to dust, burnt to smithereens. Anvinit is with us. We're also being told that Jamie Ray Meek, a British citizen listed as a passenger on Air India flight 171, reportedly shot a final Instagram short story just before takeoff, and that remains his final testament to the world. Very, very, very sad situation. Passengers from across the world on this flight. Remember, there were Canadians, there were British nationals, more than 50 British nationals, 169 Indian nationals, a number of Canadian nationals. The US government also putting out a statement, not just in sympathy, but also calling upon its citizens to check with the consulate there to ensure that they can make their way back home. Let me go across to Anvit. Anvit, what's the latest you have for us?
Rahul, see, what we are getting from ground is that the death toll has already crossed 140 and 150, and this is what the sources on ground are telling us. And among the passengers, the 242 passengers that were on board, Air India has also confirmed that there were 169 of them were Indian nationals, while 53 were British nationals. There also was one Canadian national on board, and 7 Portuguese nationals were there. The injured have certainly been taken to hospitals, but death toll is likely to rise. And from those who were on board the aircraft, it has almost confirmed. There's no official word though, but chances of survivors are really bleak in this incident. As we have also seen the visuals from ground, a number of locals had gathered on spot, and it is also one reason because the area was heavily populated one. That is also one reason that there will be certainly be fatalities from ground as well. The building that was hit by the plane, that is a doctor's hostel. Many of the occupants of the building have also been rushed to medical facilities, and there certain deaths have also been reported. Exact numbers are not still out, but it is expected that agencies certainly will be putting out the numbers soon. The police is expected to give out the numbers soon, but so far, even now, hours after the incident, focus is on rescue because many people who are under the debris, who are in the building, they are being taken out. They are all being rushed to medical facilities, and soon we'll get the numbers also as to how many have been injured and what are the exact number of fatalities. But what we are learning is that out of 242 people, which includes 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew, number of survivors who were on that plane is really bleak to be.
Well, hoping against hope, praying that we get some good news, viewers. What a terrible tragedy to grip the nation. Shocked, many people shocked. Reactions coming from across the world, from pretty much every global leader commiserating with the Indian authorities, with the Indian government and the people of our country. Let me go across to Payal. Payal, what can you tell us about the news that you're receiving on the investigative front? We know that Civil Aviation Minister and the DGCA chief and Civil Aviation Secretary are being rushed to Ahmedabad. They're going to probably meet there. There's going to be a forensic inquiry and a probe into all of this. But what are you hearing from government sources?
Well, as far as the government is concerned, Rahul, one thing is for sure that it will be a thorough investigation which will be done, because this also involves the unfortunate demise of foreign citizens, and therefore the government of India is extremely sure that there will be no lackluster, attitude at all as far as this is concerned. And therefore, all the investigating agencies concerning this have been lost to the spot. So that we just wait and see how this forensic investigation and other investigation will really follow. And therefore, Civil Aviation Minister Rammohan Naidu is expected to arrive in Ahmedabad anytime now. Union Home Minister,